I had no choice but to accept the help of the most irritating man ever. And we were walking through the forest together. He stomped heavily through the trees, evidently knowing where he was going. Which, I could not lie, was definitely a good thing. Because without Akira here with me, I had no clue where I was going. Of all the times for her to go off in a huff, now was definitely not an ideal time. "Were you on patrol?" I asked. I only spoke because I was hating the awkward silence between us, but at the same time I so desperately not wanting to talk to him either. "Will you get in trouble for leaving?" Yes, I was. But nah, I shouldn't think so. Found some loner wandering in the forest, so I am bringing her back to pack for interrogation. Don't think they can argue with me on that one. He winked at me. Interrogation? I rolled my eyes. Well, your name could be a start, he grinned. Oh. I felt my cheeks heating at his joke. He had clearly been teasing me and that had worked. He was such a dick, Bailey. Well, Bailey, nice to meet you. I am Mark. He offered me his hand, but I chose to ignore it. Not willing to shake his hand after he had done nothing since meeting me but tease me. And going off his response, he had found great pleasure in it too. He looked at me a little uncomfortable before slipping his hand into his pocket and muttering, "Sorry." I felt bad about how guilty he looked, and realized I had likely offended him now. Damn it, I was being grumpy, and I knew I was. "No, it is fine, I am sorry. Just me being grumpy, I guess," I admitted with a sigh. "You missing home?" he asked, and I shrugged. Worried about home, more like, but nobody is telling me much. I said without really thinking as I focused on not tripping over again. I think tripping over once in front of this guy is enough for today. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Shit going down there, is it? He questioned, though I didn't note any judgment in his tone. I shrugged. Not sure if to give him any further information. It is complicated. That your way of telling me to mind my own business? He chuckled, and I smiled. You are brave heading out here on your own then, if things are not great back home. Thanks. I smiled at him again, not even willing to tell him it was a case of needing to get away from there now. So, are you excited about the new job then? They have been looking for a new teacher for what seems like forever. He told me with a smile. My mum works there, he added, as if he felt the need to explain why he knew that. Really? I looked at him in surprise, feeling suddenly bad for being horrible to the son of the woman who would soon be my colleague. Yep. Good ol' Mrs. Sullivan, he grinned. Sure, she will be happy to have you there. We will see when I get there. I may be terrible. I told him with a wry smile, and he gave me a shake of his head as we crossed over the road from the forest heading toward the main part of the pack. I knew had Mark not helped me it would have taken me forever to find my way here, because I still had no clue how we had got here. I highly doubt that, or Alpha Caleb would not have taken you on. They have been pretty fussy. Trust me, I would know. I heard it all from my mum. He grinned at me, and I found myself smiling back. You are weird. I told him with a roll of my eyes, and he chuckled. Got me sussed. He suddenly hooked his arm around my shoulder in what appeared to be a playful gesture, giving me a squeeze, completely taking me by surprise. And you have known me about 10 minutes. I looked up at him, curious at what he thought he was doing, when a deep voice from across the road suddenly disturbed us. Get your hands off her. Instantly, Mark's arm slipped from around my shoulder, and I saw fear cross his handsome features, telling me he knew that voice. He looked at me anxiously before looking in the direction of the angry-sounding voice as I too looked up, only to be met by the angry stare of Asher. Why the hell was he being like that? Sorry, Beta, Mark muttered, looking down at his feet. I had just been helping her find her way back to pack. She has only just arrived, Mark. I am sure she does not need your womanizing ways interfering with her life. Asher snapped, and I saw Mark's face flush, looking guilty. But, despite the fact he may be a ladies' man, my anger raced that Beta Asher was being so rude towards him, not to mention interfering in who I was talking to. What is it to do with Beta Asher, if I choose to talk to him? Would that not be my decision, Beta? I questioned, and both their eyes darted to me. A look of surprise on Mark's face, and one of anger on Asher's face. A dark scowl appeared upon Asher's face as he looked to Mark. He looked like he was ready to kill someone. You have been here a matter of days, and you have already found yourself a replacement for the guy you hoped to be your chosen mate that found his fated, I see. He looked at me as he spoke icily, and his words hit me hard. I stood in shock at his words while Mark looked at me awkwardly. My whole body was trembling, so desperate to come back with a good argument. But I needed to get away. I could not believe this nasty fucker could throw such an evil comment at me when he knew how much I had been struggling with the situation with Harley. His kind words after had made me think there was a nice guy inside his tough exterior after all. Heh, evidently, he wasn't the nice guy I was starting to think he was. I didn't want to be there a moment longer because I could feel tears prickling in my eyes. So as fast as I could, I rushed away from the two of them, to hear Mark explaining that he thought the beta was out of order and that he had simply been helping me find my way back to pack. But I am past caring. I would be staying out of Beta Asher's way. I saw the disgust in Bailey's eyes at my initial comment, but the disgust soon turned to pain at my sly dig. I don't even know where it came from. I was awaiting a sarcastic reaction from her like previously before. She seemed good at them. But then I saw the tears building in her eyes, and she quickly walked away with no further words. Mark, one of our pack's senior warriors, and definitely one of the more popular ones with the ladies, looked at me with disdain. Was there any need for that? He snapped, taking me by surprise. I was simply helping the poor girl back to pack Beta. She was lost in the forest. And, going from the look on her face, she looked like she wanted to cry. I looked down at my feet momentarily, angry he felt he had any right to talk to me like that. Well, how was I to know that? I snarled. What difference would it make to you anyway? He asked. And I paused. He was right. What difference did it make to me? Absolutely none. If she wanted to get involved with one of our pack's most eligible bachelors, that would be her lookout. I was trying to protect her was all. It had took me by surprise seeing him with his arm around her, and I thought he was trying it on with her. I was defending her honor the same way I would my sister's if I saw him doing that to one of them. I thought you were hitting on her, and I was defending her. Warning you off, giving the poor girl a chance. Same way I would my sister's. My voice faltered as I saw the way Mark was looking at me. He had his brows raised and he was shaking his head. You looked like you wanted to kill me, Beta Asher, he muttered. And the way you spoke to her was out of order. If she has lost a mate, be it because he found his fated mate or been rejected or whatever, she did not need it thrown in her face like that. And suddenly I feel confused. I knew I was being spiteful when I spoke, but I had never intended to hurt her. Yet, I did not need telling my mistakes by a warrior either. Thank you for your time, Mark, I said bluntly, moving away from him because the way I feel right now and the fact Zion is pushing forward, his presence undulating beneath my skin, means I am so unbelievably close to going for this guy. Likely punching him right on the nose. And, as much pleasure as I may gain from doing that, I don't think it would prove to Caleb that I was in the right state of mind to continue in my role as Beta. Nor would it help me in proving to Bailey I regretted my behavior, and I don't think Mark's mom would forgive me. There is no harm in having mixed feelings for her. You know, Beta, Mark's voice was speaking once more, but it was suddenly a lot softer, attempting to reassure me, I believe. Nobody would think badly of you for having feelings for another woman, you know. It is only natural. It has been a long time since you lost Isla. I know it still hurts, we all still miss her too, but being alone forever doesn't have to be the way you live your life. I looked across at the brother of my lost mate, and I hated him all the more. How dare he imply I had feelings for the new girl? I was simply protecting her from his womanizing ways. He was a ladies' man, and always had been. Ever since Isla's mum had moved here once her husband had died, to be closer to where Isla had been, to make a fresh start after the loss, bringing her warrior son with her, who had worked his way up the ranks to senior warrior. He had become quite the hit with the ladies. You are fucking clueless, I muttered under my breath. I thought you were hitting on her. And if I was? He questioned. I thought about it and realized it would be none of my business. I simply shrugged. Thought she ought to be warned. He chuckled. Cheers, bro. He nudged me with his elbow. But incidentally, as cute as she may be, I genuinely found her in the forest. She was running away from me. I think I scared the poor little thing. She tripped up. I didn't know who she was because I didn't recognize her. When she introduced herself, I realized she likely didn't know her way back, especially in the heightened state of panic she seemed to be in. My shift was near done, so I offered to walk her back. That was it. Being a gentleman was all. I shook my head at him, surprised he thought she was cute. Ever the hero, eh, Mark? Always women love it. He grinned. But I do think you owe her an apology, Asher. I noticed he was back to calling me by my name, and not using my title now. Which meant he felt more relaxed, and didn't see this as being formal. I am not good at dealing with people. Mark, you know that. I told him, got lumbered with her induction because Alpha and Luna are dealing with pregnancy stuff. I hope you didn't say it to her quite like that. I can see why she wouldn't think too highly of you if that was the way you have spoken to her. Thanks again, Mark. I rolled my eyes as I reached the pack house. No worries, I got to go sign off for the day. But seriously, go apologize to her. Try to be nicer. And rein in that temper. I don't think that would kill you. It may kill someone else if you don't. He looks at me knowingly. The poor guy who had once been my brother-in-law had been at the end of my temper many a time, yet still acted like a friend. And, despite everything, he had still been there for me once Isla had gone. I walked through the doors of the pack house, deciding then I would go and find Bailey. But in making that decision, I was shocked at the churning within my stomach. The nerves at having to go and talk to Bailey. I was the pack beta. I HAT to talk to pack members all the time. Well, you did fuck up. Zion helpfully piped up, do not start, or I will shut you up again. I warned him, and my delightfully helpful wolf simply chuckled in response, going to curl up in the pit of my mind. Not caring in the slightest that he had irritated me. If anything, I am sure he goes out of his way to do so. I walked through the busy corridors of the pack to the stairway, knowing I was going to have to try hard to allow this new girl to forgive me, or else Eden would be on my case forever. And she already found so many excuses as it was. I planned to visit them later, and no doubt she would want to know how her newest pet project was getting on. It would not go down well if I told her I had already found a way to upset her and make her cry. I mean, that should at least wait a few weeks, right? Or you could just stop being a jackass. Zion threw in, making me roll my eyes, knowing, despite the fact he was chilling within the pits of my mind, he was still more than aware of my thoughts. Ignoring my wolf, I ran up the steps, dashing across the landing to reach the door of Bailey's room. But instead of knocking, I stood there awkwardly looking at the door. Looking down, I noticed my palms were sweaty. Why was I anxious about having to apologize to some new girl? Yes, I was out of order, I know that, but she was rude to me when all I was trying to do was protect her. I was grumpy as always because I hadn't slept. She would understand that, right? Fuck this. I don't even know what I would say. And, with that, I quickly turned and walked away from her door. She would just have to remain upset with me. I am sure she would rather cry in peace anyway without having to discuss it all with me. I had spent the rest of the day alone in my room. The incident with the beta caused me to feel the need to curl up in bed. I wanted to be alone. I had been struggling with the thought of Harley finding his fated mate. I know it was crazy. It truly felt like I had suffered a major loss. Yet he was never mine to lose. Maybe I just allowed myself to get a little too close. And nothing had really happened between us. But I knew feelings were there. They were developing. The promise of a chosen mated bond had meant everything to me. Knowing someone saw me as enough, and then for Beta Asher to so coldly throw what felt like my loss back in my face when he had seen how much it was hurting me had been difficult. I had wanted to speak to my mum, but she wasn't answering my calls. Her messages in response to my calls told me things were a little hectic in the pack. Yeah, I can only imagine if my dad and Jordan had gone in there all guns blazing. But, again, not one of them would update with me any news. When I messaged them to see how things were going, all I got was all going okay. Or, a work in progress. Or don't worry. I mean, come on. Don't worry. How was a girl meant to not worry when nobody would tell her anything? Do they not realize how a mind works? I have already arranged everything for starting my new job tomorrow, 2 or 3 times over. So, I knew that I was well prepared. Tomorrow, all my hard work and dedication, not to mention going against the dick of a fated mate I was given, to gain my degree came to fruition as I began my first teaching job. I just hoped the kids liked me. I had already had a soak in the bath to relax. But despite that, and the late hour, I was struggling to settle down. I decided to go for a walk around the pack house. See if I could find the library and find a book I could read. As stupidly, I had left most of my good books at home. That may help me fall asleep easier, as reading was my go-to thing of a nighttime. Before bed, I walked slowly down the empty, dimly lit corridors of the pack house, finding it quite eerie while it was empty. I tried hard to remember where the library was from when I had my tour, while Akira decided it would be funny to make ghost noises at me in an attempt to scare me. Stop, Akira, it is not funny, I warned her. It is every time you jump. She giggled. You spook too easily. I swear I have the most irritating wolf. Maybe wandering around a dimly lit pack house I am unfamiliar with was not the greatest idea in the world. My heart was pounding in my chest as I turned down one of the adjoining corridors to where I believed the library was. Thankfully, as I pushed the third door I tried open, I found the library, my idea of heaven, in a room. Shelves upon shelves of books lined the walls. I was not a girl that needed expensive gifts. No. Just a new book and I was happy. I quickly turned the larger light on and walked into the room, in awe at the many shelves of books. I could spend hours here. I began to look along the shelves, Akira soon losing interest and curling up in the back of my mind, likely for a nap. Reading was definitely my thing and not hers. I slid the ladder which was attached to the shelves to allow access to the higher shelves on the wall further along, so I could climb up to see what was on the higher shelves. I was beginning to wish I had come to explore the library earlier in my spare days. As I stood at the top of the ladder I could see some good books, and I leaned a little further to be able to reach one. But as I did, the ladder shuddered a little, causing my foot to slip. As my foot slipped, my whole body began to tumble downward in one big jumbled mess. Time seemed to slow as I slipped through the air with no way of stopping myself, as my arms splayed around in panic, knowing what was to come. as I came down with an awfully big thud as the floor came rushing to meet me. Thankfully, Akira had been partially alert and had helped me land in such a way that I had landed on my butt rather than my neck or anywhere else that would cause serious injury. Because falling from that high up could have caused some serious injury. But still, the pain radiating up my back was not nice. I sat myself up, rubbing my back. Want to do that again? Akira giggled. Piss off. I grumbled, not appreciating the fact my weird wolf would find it funny I had fallen. She should be trying to help me heal. That hurt. Aren't you supposed to land on your feet? She was still giggling. Pretty sure that is a cat. Now shut up. You are not funny. My back is killing, I complain, as I rub where my back hurts. Be glad I helped, or else you'd likely have had a sore head instead. Akira said smugly. Damn, I hate my wolf sometimes. Suddenly, the library door opened, making me jump, and my eyes darted toward it in shock. Who would that be at this time of night? Beta Asher rushed in, looking concerned. Oh, it is you, he said bluntly, before he appeared to be taking in that I was on the floor, surrounded by a number of books. Are you okay? Yep. All good, I muttered. Is he just stupid? Akira joined in for good measure now. Just what I needed. Surely he can see you are hurt. I decided to ignore her. Not needing her input right now, he suddenly walked over to me. Did you fall, Bailey? I heard a loud bang. I saw him looking at the ladder, then down to me. I raised my brows at him and gave him a sarcastic half-smile, as if to tell him to work it out himself. Surely he wasn't that stupid. Was she? Why are you in here at this time of night? And for that matter, why are you climbing a ladder with socks on? He said in the most patronizing tone ever, leaning down to try to help me up, offering me his hand, which I ignored. Yes. I knew it hadn't been the smartest idea in the world attempting to climb the ladder in the slipper socks I had on my feet, but there were books up there. Books I wanted to see. Books that I may want to read. And I didn't have shoes with me, as I had decided to leave my room in my PJs and slipper socks. So I made do with what I had. I may be regretting it now. Quick, he is close. Poke him in the eye. Let him feel some pain. Akira says suddenly, and I have to try so hard not to laugh, though. I have to say her idea is not a bad one. I am fine. You can go now. I dismissed him. I don't think you are. You have just fallen. How far up the ladder were you? He questions, literally pushing his hand into mine to help me up. I saw no option but to accept his assistance and take his help to stand up, feeling a little unsteady on my feet. Almost falling over. Whoa, Beta Asher instantly hooked his arm around my waist. Right, come and sit down on the sofa. He helped me walk to one of the many sofas within the library. He softly helped me sit down before sitting down next to me. And I could now feel his eyes looking at me. I felt uncomfortable under his gaze, yet I slowly raised my eyes to meet his. I am fine, I told him with a slow shake of my head. It looked like it. He smiled, a tight and forced smile. But seriously, how far up the ladder were you? The top. Shit, Bailey. Maybe I should get you checked at the hospital, he mumbled. I didn't hit my head. Stop stressing. I am still alive. You don't get rid of me that easily. I glared at him, and he was smirking. Well, if you had died like that, at least Eden couldn't have blamed that one on me. He said with a sarcastic smile. I simply shook my head. I guess not. Why are you down here this late? He questioned now, and I shrugged. I couldn't sleep, I said bluntly. He looked down at his hands, which only drew my attention to them, and noticed they were clenched into two fists. I am guessing that could be my fault? He asked softly. I had been doing my usual nightly patrol of the pack house when there had been one hell of a clatter and thud from one of the rooms down the corridor, causing me to go and investigate. There should be nobody in the rooms, so I was on the defensive. But the moment I approached the room, I could smell Bailey's smell. What on earth was she doing up and down here at this time of the night? Never mind that you bellend. Is she okay? What was the bang? Zion added bluntly, and I realized he likely had a point, so I quickly opened the door. As I glanced around the room, my eyes instantly found her, sitting on the floor, dressed in her pajamas, and her hair a mane of big brown curls, so different to the tamed straightened hair I had seen her with since she had arrived. As her eyes met mine, she did not seem pleased to see me, and her attitude proved much the same. "Oh, it is you," I said to her. So she realized I had been wondering who the hell had been wandering around the pack house this fucking late at night, disturbing what I was doing. Though as I looked at her, she looked in discomfort and was surrounded by a number of books, which looked like she had dropped them. "Are you okay?" I added, wondering if she had hurt herself. "Yep, all good," she muttered. Of course she was. She wouldn't admit it if she wasn't, would she? I quickly walked over to where she sat, needing to check she was okay. If she had fallen, she could have hurt herself. "Did you fall, Bailey? I heard a loud bang," I asked before looking up at the nearby ladder and back down to her sitting on the floor, her face grimacing in pain. Had she been on the ladder? Then she simply raised her perfectly shaped brows at me and gave me a sarcastic, barely there smile. What the hell was I supposed to decipher from that? I wasn't a fucking mind reader. I wanted to know if she had hurt herself, not if she was annoyed at me. God damn it, she was infuriating. "Why are you in here at this time of night?" I asked her, completely confused as to why she isn't tucked up in bed ready for starting her new job tomorrow. "And for that matter, why are you climbing a ladder with socks on?" I added, desperately wanting an answer to why she would be so irresponsible as to try to climb a ladder in socks. Wasn't she supposed to be clever? Common sense would tell you attempting to climb a ladder in socks would be a bad idea, wouldn't it? I offered Bailey my hand to help her up, but her being stubborn seemed to ignore me. "I am fine. You can go now," Bailey told me coldly, with a dirty look. Wow. I am trying to help her, and I get a dirty look. And to be fair, she doesn't look fine. She looked in pain and far from fine. "I don't think you are. You have just fallen." "How far up the ladder were you?" I asked again, this time not giving her an option. I pushed my hand into hers to ensure she had help in getting up. Her hand clenched around mine, though I had a feeling it was more because she felt she had no choice with my literally putting my hand there. And she pulled herself up. Yet, the moment she did, her legs wobbled a little and she stumbled slightly. I quickly went to steady her, not wanting her to fall again. "Whoa," I said, as I hooked my arm around her waist to steady her, allowing her to lean on me. The scent of coconut from her hair filling my senses as I was that close to her. "Right, come and sit down on the sofa." I walked her to one of the sofas, and with shaky legs she sat down, and I joined her, sitting alongside one another, feeling more than a little uncomfortable. I looked at her, trying to see if she had hurt herself, also a little intrigued by how different she looked with her natural hair. Why she would spend ages taming her curls I didn't know, not when the curls were quite beautiful. Bailey's eyes moved to meet mine. "I am fine." She dismissed me with a slow shake of her head. "It looked like it," I said with an uncomfortable smile. "But seriously, how far up the ladder were you?" "The top." "Shit, Bailey. Maybe I should get you checked at the hospital." I found myself mumbling, genuinely worried about her now. That was quite a distance to fall. I didn't hit my head. "Stop stressing. I am still alive. You don't get rid of me that easily," she said to me, with quite the dirty look upon her face, yet I cannot help but smirk at her. She is a sarcastic little thing when she wants to be. Well, If you had died like that, at least Eden couldn't have blamed that one on me. I couldn't help but say with a sarcastic smile, Bailey is looking at me, but simply shakes her head, her curls bouncing as she does. I guess not. While I looked at her, I couldn't help but ask again. Why are you down here this late? With a shrug, she answered bluntly. I couldn't sleep. Hearing those words makes me wonder if the incident earlier was to blame. I knew she was struggling with the issue with the guy finding his fated mate, and I had been a bit harsh about it all. I found myself clenching my fists in anxiety. I had likely been out of order. She didn't deserve me being like that earlier. I can't help but wonder if her mind was struggling to settle because of my actions. I guess that would be understandable. I am guessing that could be my fault, I asked quietly, and I saw her looking at me with raised brows. What would make you think that? She says, leaning against the arm of the sofa, wincing slightly as she does, telling me she had hurt herself more than she had let on as she had fallen, because I was out of order earlier and I should not have said what I did. I said, the words painfully slow to come from my mouth as I avoided her gaze. I hated admitting I was in the wrong, but in this instance there was no denying it. I knew that. You found that hard, huh? She tapped my foot gently with her foot as if she was teasing. My gaze met hers, but I found no criticism in those big brown eyes of hers. Just warmth, friendliness. I am not good with people, Bailey. I haven't been since I lost my mate, I said quietly, surprising myself at my honesty. She nodded. I think I can understand that. Losing your mate can be the hardest thing in the world. I don't think it would be unreasonable for it to make you feel like you hate the world. Her words shock me. She didn't seem to be judging me. She seemed to be genuinely open to understanding how this had been for me. It likely shouldn't have been when I had barely had chance for the bond to form. I muttered quietly. Something I barely mentioned to anyone. Something that I struggled with constantly. Isla had barely been mine. Our mate bond was barely established. Not developed. But losing her felt like it had shredded my whole heart and soul apart. I probably wasn't suffering like someone who had lost their fated mate of decades. But I felt like I had my heart ripped out. I felt Bailey's eyes upon me. A mate bond is a mate bond. I don't think time can alter the feelings when your souls were tied together, fated to be together. It is difficult to lose who is meant to be your other half, she says gently, before looking down at her hands. I can't help but wonder how she must feel then. If her fated mate did not want her, and then the man she had chosen had now found his own fated, and taken the path fate planned for him, leaving her alone once more. I looked across at her, and I saw her chewing her lower lip deep in thought before she glanced at me. I think I will go to my room again now, she said quietly, making me wonder if she too had been thinking about the same thing. Will you be okay? I asked, worried about her, not only with the fact she had fallen, but now with how she must be feeling too. I always am, she said with a quick nod, before quickly moving away from me, leaving me to watch her walk away. Life at home could not be more perfect. Waking up to the most beautiful of mates each and every day was sheer heaven, wearing her mark upon my neck, showing the world that I was hers, and her wearing mine to show the world she was mine, made for one another. I would happily spend every day in our new home. But things within the pack were unsettled. News had spread that Miles had been sent away, sent to treatment for his anger, as well as for additional training, for if he were to become alpha. Though the official line for pack members is that he is gaining additional alpha training. Wanting to be the best alpha he can be. I don't think there was a good alpha in him anymore. I am not certain there ever was. It was only in recent weeks I had seen the truth. And the clearer it had become. How I had never seen it before. I honestly don't know. I think perhaps a small part of me was swept away by it all. In him, in his power, the aura of him, he certainly had that ability. So many of our pack idolized him. Power had gone to his head, and it had changed him for the worse. Thankfully, my uncle, our current alpha, had listened to all we had to say, though I do think the fact his own son, Miles's brother, being there had helped massively. He had gone home, thought it all through, spoken about it all with his wife, and come back to discuss it all with us. They had decided Miles needed to seek treatment, saying his anger was out of control. While I agree, to some degree, in my opinion, that has always been an issue, and I am not sure if I could ever see that changing. I think the power of being an alpha was what fed the anger and nastiness within him, but they wanted him to gain this treatment and seek a mate. Oddly, my uncle had even asked my dad if he thought Bailey would consider returning home to take Miles as her fated mate like fate had planned, saying she was made for Miles, that they could be perfect to run the pack together. Desperately trying to convince my dad how wonderful it could be to have their children mated. My mum had told me all hell had broken loose, and my dad was ready to kill my uncle when he suggested that. So, needless to say, that idea was quickly scrapped, which was definitely for the better, and there would have been no way in hell that Bailey would have agreed to that anyway. I thought when Alpha Marshall had mentioned it in the office he would have realized it was a no-go. But evidently not. So, they had decided Miles would be seeking a chosen mate. And all I could say was goddess help any woman mated to him. For he did not know how to think of anyone but himself. And he did not do being faithful. I knew from the many times he had a girlfriend through the years. He would still go out and seek women to hook up with on the side. So, if my aunt and uncle truly thought finding a mate would settle him down, they were mistaken, I think. I had been summoned to the office by my uncle, so I had left my mate at home and was walking through the pack now. The early morning sunshine did nothing to brighten my mood. I was sure the pack members knew something was not right within the pack, but were too afraid to ask. As I crossed the road, Ellis came into view. I knew he too was settling into life with his new mate, and he seemed happy as I did. Strange how meeting your fated mate can have such an impact on you. Yet, having met Gia and experiencing this myself, this puzzled me, as discovering Bailey was his mate had never changed Miles. "Hey Jordan." Ellis greeted me with a smile. "Hey, you off to the pack house?" he asked, and I nodded in agreement. "You?" He shook his head. "No, off to say bye to my mum. Going to alpha training." He rolled his eyes like he thought it was such an inconvenience, though in some ways I imagine it would be, because it would take him away from his new mate. I raised my brows at him. This was new information. Did this mean they were now preparing for the likelihood Miles would not be a suitable alpha after all? "Alpha training?" I asked, trying to sound nonchalant. He nodded. "Think it is a precaution they want to take. They need to have a capable alpha to take my dad's place, and right now, Miles is not it. And while I could to some degree, they want me to take the official training," he said with a shrug. "Like it is nothing. But this is not nothing, this is huge. This is the second son. Potentially taking the title from the first son. The next in line, the heir. Miles would go batshit crazy if he learned of this. So, you are going to be the next alpha?" I asked. Once again, trying to sound as if I was making everyday conversation, not asking such a huge question. A question that could alter the future for him, my best friend and me. Not a fucking clue, but the fact Miles is being a jackass in treatment, it is looking more likely, I would guess. He shrugged again, like he wasn't bothered. It was fine for him. For me, this could mean the difference between my future role as Beta, a role that I have trained for years, to suddenly being nothing but a standard pack member. His treatment isn't going to plan then, I guess? I asked, though I have to say I am not surprised. He was taken there nigh on kicking and screaming, so the fact he was fighting the treatment now he was there did not surprise me in the slightest. Ellis shook his head. Couldn't be further from going to plan, fighting it with everything he has got. But that is Miles, isn't it? He is there, and that is what we need. I rolled my eyes. No, what we need is him actually doing the treatment. He has always been this way, Jay. You know that. I don't think there is any fixing him. Maybe calming him a little, finding him the mate my mum and dad want, pop a few pups out, and he should be okay. Are you having a laugh? I exclaimed in shock. Pop a few pups out. You would curse a child to having him as their dad with the way he can be right now, especially when he is likely to be cheating on his mate, as he has yet to find a girl he can stay faithful to. Ellis stood looking at me with his eyes wide, like he was not expecting my outburst. But I didn't care. It sounded like he was as deluded as his parents, if this was what he believed. We need to give him some hope, Jay. No, Ellis. He needs help first. Hope comes later, I said, walking away before I end up saying something I regret, after what can only be considered very little sleep once again. I was awake, though my lack of sleep had not been purely down to my recurrent thoughts of Isla. Reliving the pain of losing her. Last night my thoughts had been riddled with concerns about Bailey too. Something that had taken me by surprise, I have to say. But she had looked hurt when she walked away from me in the library. I still never got my answer as to why she was down there so late. Other than that, she couldn't sleep. Hell. I know that feeling. But still, surely she wouldn't come wandering the corridors of somewhere she is still unfamiliar with. But, I suppose, common sense tells me the obvious answer would be to find a book. But I hate the thought of her sitting alone struggling with her thoughts. Because of something I had said in the heat of the moment. And, for some reason, I could not shake the thought that that was what she was likely doing. Yes. I was a jackass at the best of times, but I would like to think I was still a decent guy deep down. Sometimes, you have to dig pretty deep to find the decent guy. Because he got hidden or lost in the shit that was going on in the mess that was my mind, but I like to think he is still there or still capable of being there when I need him to be. And I do not like the thought of a perfectly innocent woman hurting because of my words. That is not how I was brought up, and that was not the sort of guy I wanted to be either. Nor did I want Bailey thinking that of me. She had been here a matter of days, and already her opinion of me was probably already scraping the barrel. Can't say I was doing well. I still hadn't apologized to her properly last night either. It had been a half-assed attempt at an apology, but she had rushed out before I managed to finish, so I planned to find her at some point today and apologize properly. That was the right thing to do, no matter how difficult that might be for me. Wow. Personal growth, Zion chuckled to himself as I got dressed, and my thoughts were running through my mind. Seriously, man. Do not start with me today. I rolled my eyes. My bloody wolf was dead set on giving me a hard time, and I hadn't even had my coffee yet. Well, the poor girl deserves an apology, he told me. And I know I done bad if my wolf, the animalistic side of me, was telling me right from wrong. I walked out of my suite and onto the landing, looking around to see if I could see Bailey, knowing that she may well be around early too, heading out for her first day at her new job. I had even contemplated calling for her to go to breakfast together, but then reconsidered, thinking it would maybe look a little presumptuous, not to mention a little over-friendly, and I don't think she considers us friends. I noticed with slight disappointment there was no sight of her, so instead of going to the dining hall for my coffee, I figured I would make my way to the office instead and grab a coffee there before going to the hospital to see how Eden was doing. Hopefully that little one would decide it was cooked enough and hop right on out of its mama's belly. So his daddy could get back to work, because all this extra work was beginning to take its toll on my poor brain. Not that I would ever tell Caleb that. He didn't need the additional stress. I knew he was worried enough about Eden and the little one, without being made to feel guilty about piling the additional workload on me. I reached my office quickly, doing my best to avoid any interaction with the many pack members beginning to arrive. The corridors beginning to become busier as more pack members made their way to the dining hall and to various other areas of the pack house that were used during the day. Such a stark difference to the eerie silence of the nighttime, though I have to say it was a peace I craved by the end of the day. I softly closed my door behind me, moving straight to my coffee machine, glad that supplies had been topped up. As I began to make my coffee, my phone began to ring, and I answered. "Hey, Ash." Eden greeted me cheerfully. "Good morning, Eden," I smiled. "How are you doing, sweetheart?" "Still fat. Still uncomfortable. Still pregnant." "Thanks for asking," she grumbled. Would you hate me if I said, not fat, not uncomfortable, not pregnant?" I teased. I heard her almost hiss down the phone at me, only making me laugh, telling me my teasing had worked. She was always so easy to wind up, and had brought a lot of amusement to Caleb and me over the years. "Not uncomfortable?" she questioned. "Aren't you uncomfortable in most situations that involve other people?" she said sarcastically, and I cannot help but smile, as she got me good on that one. "Haha," I responded. "Difference is Eden. I am on my own right now, enjoying my morning coffee, so not uncomfortable in the slightest." Asher Alcott. "I will come over there, albeit I will have to waddle to get there and kick your ass." "Why are you not at the school?" Eden yelled down the phone at me. "Was I supposed to be at the school? Huh?" I answered in confusion. "Bailey begins her new job today, and you are sitting on your sorry behind in your office, enjoying one of your luxury coffees, feeling far from uncomfortable." Eden snarled down the phone at me. And at that moment, I truly wish I hadn't even bothered answering my phone to her. She gave me more of a hard time than my own mother. And why does the fact she starts her job mean I need to be at school? I asked. "I know you like to think I am stupid, but I am pretty sure I am past needing teaching." Eden made the hissing noise again, making me seriously wonder if she was not the werewolf she was meant to be, and perhaps a snake or a cat, because that hissing sure sounded along those lines. Because the decent thing for her new employers would be to be there to greet her. Didn't I do that when I stayed up until stupid o'clock to greet her and her far too happy daddy? I asked sarcastically, only to be answered with a snarl from Eden, which told me all I needed to know. It also told me where I would be spending my morning. God damn it. Seemed I was heading to the school to pretend to be cheerful again and welcome Bailey into her new job. Sure, she would be over the moon to see me. I stormed through the pack house, rage rushing through me at everything Ellis had told me. How can he be so dismissive of his brother? He had to know that Miles was out of control. He had seen it as much as I had. "Baby, are you okay? I can feel you through the bond and you feel so angry. Has something happened?" Gia's voice almost purrs at me through the mind link, and instantly I feel better. Damn, I wish I could have stayed home with her. "Sorry, beautiful. I forget you can feel my emotions through that thing sometimes." "Yeah, I am okay. I just saw Ellis, and something he said got on my nerves." "Are you okay?" I replied, not wanting her to be worried. She didn't need to know all of my worries. I wanted her to enjoy her time here in the pack and not be caught up in all of these recent dramas. Yet, since the moment she had arrived, she had been trapped in every bit of the drama, and I hated that. It was not the welcome to my pack I wanted for my mate. "Yeah, I am just making some breakfast. Then I am going to meet your mum," she told me. "You think you will be long. I am missing you. Who knows? Though I am missing you too, beautiful. You know I would be home with you if I could." But I have no clue what my uncle is wanting with me. Whether it is a quick chat or more, a chat, and then he chooses to send me off to do something. Bearing in mind I have just seen Ellis on the way to say goodbye to his mom because he is leaving for alpha training. What? I could hear a wobble in her tone even through the mind link. You think they will be sending you away? Okay. Maybe mentioning Ellis being sent away for his alpha training was not a good idea. The panic in Gia's tone was more than evident. She clearly was no worrying I would be packed off somewhere now. Stop worrying, Gia. I didn't say that, did I? I have already done my beta training. Though if Ellis took the alpha role, I may well have wasted my time. Because he will get to choose his own beta and gamma positions. So all my years of training and working toward that could be for nothing, and you may be mated to a standard pack member. I am sorry to say, beautiful, I told her, suddenly anxious as to what she might think of that, and beginning to question if I should maybe have waited until I had got home until I spoke to her about this, and broke it to her properly. What if she didn't want me? Wait. First, let me just say, you think it would bother me for even a second if you were just a standard pack member, Jordan. Her tone through the link was calmer this time, determined almost. But I would be hurting for you, because I know how much it means to you. This is your family heritage, something you have dreamed of since being a young boy too, doing all those extra training sessions. You were meant to be a beta, so for you to lose that chance would break your heart. I know it would. But I know that they would be doing what was right for the pack, removing Miles. So do you. You have said yourself how dangerous he is, baby. And, despite all her words messing with my mind, and the fact it would hurt so much, I know she is right. I would have to find a way to accept what comes. With the training I had done, I could maybe look to become a warrior. I got on well with all of them. That would still give me a purpose within the pack. Look, beautiful, I need to go and speak to my uncle. He will get grumpy as hell if I keep him waiting, but I will be back to you the moment I can. But thank you, your words mean the world to me. And you were right. I will find a way to accept whatever comes, I told her as I cut the link, rushing through the remaining part of the pack house corridors, toward the Alpha office. Ignoring everyone I passed along the way. Definitely not in the mood for polite conversation this morning. I took a deep breath as I reached the door, trying hard to prepare for the conversation that could possibly await me inside, before knocking lightly on the door. Come in. My uncle's voice bellowed from inside. Great, he was already sounding stressed, and the day had barely started. I opened the door and walked in, trying hard to disguise my nerves. Good morning, Uncle Marshall. I greeted him, only for him to simply nod at me from his seat behind his large wooden desk in the corner of the room, covered in papers. He never seemed to get through his paperwork well, and I know it drove my dad mad. He was forever saying he was the most disorganized man in the world. I walked to the seat on the opposite side of the desk and sat myself down. Is everything okay, Uncle? I asked, feeling even more nervous now because he hadn't even looked up from his papers on his desk. His face etched into a deep frown. He looked up at me just as there was another knock at the door, causing my uncle to sigh. Come in, he ordered once again, and this time a Pack Omega walked in with a tray of breakfast food and some fresh coffees. The smell of the food filled my senses, causing my belly to rumble. I hadn't realized how hungry I was, but knowing my uncle was waiting for me, I had rushed out of the house, not wanting to keep him waiting. I'd say someone sounds hungry. I had banked on you having not eaten. Bet that new mate of yours is keeping you busy. My uncle chuckled at me, standing up and taking the tray from the Omega. Thank you. He nodded at her, before walking toward the sofa across his office. Come on, son, we need to chat. Only a moment ago I had been looking forward to the food he held. Now my stomach had dropped, desperately nervous about what he wanted to talk to me about. But I did as he asked and followed him to sit on the sofa, waiting for him to start with whatever he wanted to discuss. But instead, he chose to torture me and began to arrange some food on plates for us both. Was he for real? Did he not know I wanted to know what was so urgent? He had called me from my bed with my mate. So, is having your mate going well, son? He asked me with an affectionate smile. The alpha and my dad had been close friends since childhood, and with my dad being his beta, the alpha had always been in my life. He treated me like one of his own family. Hence he forever referred to me as son, and me calling him uncle. It wouldn't seem right any other way now. Has she settled well into the pack? I assume the chat is not of major importance then. I nodded. She is amazing. Can't believe I ever managed without her. I began, and my words made my uncle chuckle. I think she is settling in okay. A bit difficult to tell with things a little unsettled. She is spending the day with my mum today. My uncle nodded. You do find yourself knocked sideways when you meet your fated mate. It is like a section of you was lost, and it has come back. So, I fully understand you saying you wondered how you managed without her. I looked up at him, and he was smiling. The look in his eyes told me he was likely thinking of when he met my auntie. Our pack Luna Phoebe. I know he likely won't appreciate me asking, but I cannot help myself. If it feels like that, then how did Miles fight it? How could he not have felt the same things when he realized Bailey was his fated mate? My uncle's face changed in an instant. Suddenly frowning. That I can't tell you. I know they always clashed, those two, but I would have expected the bond to correct that to some degree. I guess the bond can't be strong enough sometimes. His voice fumbled a little, like he was not sure what to say. I don't know. Perhaps he was too young. Maybe the moon goddess made a mistake. Age shouldn't matter, should it? And does she do that? I asked, and again my uncle looked uncertain. I don't have all the answers, son. I won't lie to you. I never have done, and I don't intend to start now. I hate what my boy did to your sister. I am struggling to comprehend his actions. She is the sweetest girl. No, not the usual type Miles goes for, but she is still beautiful, a natural beauty, and so intelligent, a mate to be proud of in so many ways. But his actions, he paused momentarily, as if he was thinking. Well, there is no excusing them. Bailey deserved so much more. She must have been in so much pain. And yet she never said a word. He told her not to. Threatened her. I heard her screaming at night when he was with other she-wolves before he rejected her. I thought she was having nightmares. Only when I realized what had happened did I put two and two together. I explained. And I saw my uncle's face drop, like he hadn't considered all the consequences of his son's actions. Jordan, I have always been honest with you. Now I need you to be honest with me, be it as your uncle or your alpha. But I need you to answer me a question. You likely know Miles better than anyone else. Do you think there is any way back for him? Do you think he can get better? My uncle looked at me hopefully. My mind was full of so many thoughts in this instant. I could see the desperation within my uncle's eyes. He wanted there to be hope, and who could blame him? This was his son, after all. But if I said there was no hope, then I was basically handing over my title, yet he had asked for my honesty. I think it will be difficult. Uncle, the power of being an upcoming alpha is what he craves. It scares me that when he becomes alpha, he may become even more ruthless and brutal. He could damage the pack and those in it. His anger has always been an issue since he was a child. I had hoped meeting his fated mate would calm him. You know, you hear stories of that happening. That is what I had clung to as we grew up, and I saw him doing the things he did. But when I discovered he had met his fated mate, rejected her and treated her so badly, I began to fear hope may be lost. I admitted honestly, knowing my chance of my rank of beta was looking less likely now. My uncle nodded. Thank you for being so honest, Jordan. I know it must have been hard. You probably feel you are betraying your friend, but I need to decide what will happen. I need to put the pack first. I nodded, fully understanding his choice. He was the current alpha and the safety of his pack, and the members who lived here was his first priority. Even if that meant going against his own son, and if you are looking for a chosen mate for him, she will need to be as strong-willed and fiery as him to be able to deal with him. Coping with him at his worst is not easy, I explained, knowing he needed to hear this too, though in truth he likely knew it as he had to deal with him regularly. Plus, I am not sure whether he will be faithful. He has always struggled with that. My uncle smirked. Yes, I know, son. He isn't the best at that. Again, that was the reason we hoped his fated mate would be a perfect fit. Because his wolf would fight him for it all. Your wolf would do anything they could to protect that bond. But, for whatever reason, Miles seems able to fight that bond. He will take a chosen mate once his treatment is taken. See if that calms him. I nodded. Not surprised they still clung to that hope, but I doubted it would make the difference they were so desperate for. And if it doesn't, I questioned, despite feeling I likely knew the answer, then Ellis will take the alpha role. He tells me with a small smile, I am thinking that may be the safer option anyway. He is a smart boy. He has a strong and secure bond with his mate, and he is willing to listen and learn. But Miles is my heir. I have to give him this chance. I think I knew that was likely. It would take our pack by surprise, but if they knew the truth, they too would be grateful. He would be saving them years of suffering if Ellis were to become alpha. I think that makes sense. I smiled at my uncle. And that brings me to the reason I wanted you to come and chat to me, he says, confusing me. I had assumed the things we had spoken about already were what he wanted to talk about, but I nodded in agreement. Okay, I know you have already completed your beta training, son. You were always destined to be the pack beta following the line of your family, and being Miles's best friend. He began, and I realized now, he wanted to prepare me for the fact that Ellis would be allowed to choose his own beta and gamma, people he was close to and would want to work with, creating an effective team. That was the reason he had brought me here, to tell me what I already knew. That my future role here was at risk if Miles's treatment failed. I nodded. I know, Uncle. You don't need to tell me if Miles fails his treatment and you chose to make Ellis alpha in his place. I would not become beta. I worked that out as soon as it was all being discussed. My uncle raised his brows at me, a small smile twitching at the corners of his lips. So presumptuous, aren't you, Jay? He shook his head. You aren't wrong to some degree. We have discussed the situation with Ellis and asked if he would alter the senior line if he was to take his brother's place as alpha. And while he would prefer to replace Preston Ford as the upcoming gamma, as he doesn't get along too well with him, he said he couldn't think of anyone he would rather have as his beta than you. So, no matter which one of my sons becomes alpha, you will always be the next beta. The way it was meant to be. My head felt like it was spinning at his words. Ellis had said he still wanted me as his beta. I wouldn't lose my role. I had been terrified of losing everything. I knew Miles needed this treatment, and I had desperately wanted the right thing. But I knew the right thing meant I could lose everything I had worked so hard for. But now, I could have everything I wanted. Really? I exclaimed, and there was no hiding the excitement within my voice. My uncle smiled. Without a doubt, son. You are close to both boys, so it made sense. You are already trained. But I want you to do some additional training with me and your dad, to ensure you are well prepared. We want this pack to be at its best. Is that okay with you? I nodded enthusiastically. More training. If that was what they wanted from me, I would do it. I didn't care. I was not losing my role as beta, and that meant everything to me. After being snarled at down the phone far too many times by the ever-so-cheerful Luna of our pack, I made my way to the school, avoiding eye contact with the pack members as I walked through the corridors of the pack house, a surefire way to avoid conversation with them. I had not even been allowed time to have my coffee thanks to Eden being so grumpy and demanding. I make my way to the school immediately before the school starting time, so to ensure that Bailey was okay. What she thought would be wrong, I didn't know. Not like she wasn't capable. She was a trained teacher after all. This is what we employed her for. If she was going to need monitoring all the time, then I think we needed to look elsewhere. She should be perfectly able to manage. A perfectly capable she-wolf who fell off a ladder after deciding it was a good idea to climb it in socks, Zion pointed out, and I chuckled. Yeah, fair point. So, do we get to sing nursery rhymes with them at school when we visit? Zion asked, sounding far too cheerful. Piss off, I grumbled. I do not need your input this morning. I haven't even had my coffee. The thought of kids singing out of tune sounded like sheer torture. Well, if Miss Bailey needs a big bad wolf for her stories, she has definitely got one in you. Zion chuckled, and I simply wanted to strangle the irritating pain in my ass that I was cursed with for a wolf. Ooh, so funny, I hissed. Think you are the wolf last time I checked. Good point. Well, don't be going all big bad beta on her ass today. You might scare her and the kids for that matter. He pointed out, I have no intention of going anywhere near her ass. Thank you very much. I snapped, and now found myself with my wolf laughing almost hysterically at my response. I had to have been given the most irritating wolf in history, one I was no choosing to ignore. I left the doors of the pack house, almost blinded by the bright sunshine. Yeah, a coffee may have been a good idea. I was not ready for this. It felt like I was going to melt. More vampire than werewolf this morning without my coffee. Without a doubt, I quickly made my way down the path toward the school, when I heard a familiar voice, "Hello, Beta," and I quickly turned around to see Mrs. Sullivan. Ally, my former mother-in-law. I should have prepared myself for seeing her. I knew she worked at the school, but, in my haste to do as I was told by Eden, I hadn't given her a thought. It had been quite some time since I had seen her. I used to regularly spend time with her after she had arrived in our pack. I know she came here to feel closer to her daughter after she had died, to make a fresh start. And I thought in spending time with her, I hoped to feel closer to Isla too. A final link to my lost mate, clinging on to what I had lost. But it never worked. I knew my visits brought some comfort to Ally, but after some time I couldn't continue. The pain was too much, and I began to find excuses for not going any longer, often using my role as Beta as my excuse. I smiled at her. Indeed. Are you heading in my direction? She asked, sounding a little unsure, yet what surprised me was that she didn't once criticize me for not visiting anymore or the length of time since I had last seen her. She was just chatting like I had seen her only a matter of days ago. Yeah. On my way to the school, actually, I told her. Oh, is something wrong? She sounded a little concerned now, and I suppose I couldn't blame her. A visit from the Beta was pretty unusual. Of course not. You are doing a terrific job. You always have done. Luna Eden asked me to come and welcome your new lower-class teacher. She would be here doing it herself, but that little one of hers is still causing some issues, I explained. I saw a look of relief cross her face at my explanation. I had heard we had a new girl starting. It will make our lives easier. Is the Luna okay? I chuckled. Last time I asked, I believe her words were, still fat, still uncomfortable, and still pregnant. Ally laughed. Oh dear, The later stages of pregnancy are difficult, especially when you are as petite as Luna. We approached the doors of the school, and I opened them to allow Ally to walk in. She nodded at me in thanks. "Well, we got here a little early, Beta, so would you like a coffee?" she asked, and I smiled. Seeing as Luna disturbed my coffee, I would not say no, feeling far from functioning fully as of yet. I smiled back. I had always got on well with my former mother-in-law, and she had become the lead teacher within our Pack Junior School in recent years. She was an exceptionally highly respected woman within the pack. She wandered through to the small staff room. "Ah, good morning, Gabby," she greeted the other teacher, "and I assume you must be our new teacher." My eyes darted across the room to meet the curious gaze of Bailey. Those wild curls of the previous night were gone, and her hair was neatly tamed back into a high ponytail, with a red bow in her hair, and she wore a simple black maxi dress with red Converse on her feet, an unusual outfit. But I have to say she looked kind of cute. "I am Ally, the lead teacher. I think I missed you when you came in for your interview. I was visiting family." Ally introduced herself and offered her hand to Bailey, whose face broke into a smile, her delicate features lighting up as she did. "I am Bailey," she introduced herself as she shook Ally's hand. "Well, Bailey, all I can say is, welcome to the madhouse, and boy are we glad to have you," Ally joked before looking at me. "Beta, you still have your coffee the same way?" I nodded politely. "Please." When my gaze fell upon Bailey again, she was still sitting upon the chair, fidgeting with her hands, like she felt uncomfortable, and I couldn't help but wonder if that was because of me being here. "Bailey, do you have a moment, please?" I asked, and her eyes darted to mine, but she nodded, quickly standing from the seat. As she stood, I couldn't help but notice the dress she wore seemed to enhance the curves of her body. "Wait. Where the hell did that thought come from?" "Ooh, you naughty boy you," Zion chuckled. Thinking of her ass earlier and now checking out her curves. I quickly blocked my wolf out, because I did not need his comments messing with my mind. I do not know what made me think that, and I did not his input causing me to analyze what caused me to think it either. "Is everything okay, Beta?" Bailey was suddenly in front of me, and I found myself almost frozen, like I was unsure what to say. "Number, I need to sort my brain out. It is simply because I have not had my coffee yet. That, and the fact I have had Eden and Zion on my case already today." "Sure. Come on. I just wanted a quick chat." I led her out of the staff room so the others weren't listening in. "Oh, if it is about last night, I am fine," she says bluntly, avoiding my gaze. I figured that may be a little awkward. I was a little concerned about that, but actually, I know talking about that when you are about to start your new job would likely not be the best idea. "Luna Eden asked me to come and check in with you," I explained, and suddenly her face seemed to ease, like relief had spread over her whole body. "Oh," she said, a small smile teasing at her delicate pink lips. "She had messaged me," I said. "I was okay." She said with a shrug, "Wait. Eden had already messaged Bailey, so why the hell had she made me feel bad and then sent me here?" I had rushed across Pack to do something it seemed like she had already done. "Oh right. Well, she was adamant I come and see if you were feeling okay about starting your new job and see if there was anything you needed." I told her with an awkward smile. "I am good. Looking forward to it, actually." She looked up at me, and I could see the enthusiasm within her eyes. I had no doubt this girl was going to be just fine. She was evidently made for this job. "Good. If you need anything, you know where I am, right?" I urged her. "Avoiding me," she said with a cheeky grin, and for some reason I find myself unable to stop myself smiling back. "And why would I be avoiding you?" "Well, I can only imagine that would be the case if Luna Eden had to force you to come and check in on me," she said with a playful wink, and I felt my heart begin to race unexpectedly. "No, it wasn't quite like that," I began. She gently placed her hand upon my arm. "I was teasing Beta," she said softly, her big brown eyes looking up at me through long dark lashes. I nodded at her with a shake of my head, struggling to explain why she made me feel nervous. "You can call me Asher, you know," I suddenly suggested, though I have no clue why. I could see a hesitant expression upon his face as he looked at me. Perhaps I shouldn't have touched him, or have teased him. "You can call me Asher, you know," he suggested out of the blue, flooring me a little with his words. Why would I do that when he was the beta here? That would be deemed awfully unprofessional of me. I was merely a guest within their pack. And I wouldn't call us friends. So, logically, there would be no reason for me to use only his name. But as I looked up to meet his gaze, ready to question why I would do that, I saw nerves upon his face, uncertainty within his eyes, and I couldn't bring myself to say anything, because I believed he was already wondering why he had suggested it. Instead, I simply smiled, not wanting to hurt his feelings or make things uncomfortable. Yet, an awkward silence fell between us, as my mind desperately grasped for ideas of things we could discuss. I didn't know him that well. "Well, what'd know? Maybe he isn't a robot after all," Akira said with a giggle, making me want to push my wolf to the back of my mind. She could be so bitchy when she wanted to be. I think he was just trying to be friendly, even if it was so unlike the beta he had been so far, and it made no sense to me whatsoever. The two of us began speaking at the same time, and I flushed a little. "Sorry, go on." "No, go on." He nodded at me, signaling for me to speak, and I suddenly felt uncomfortable again in his presence. "I was only going to ask if you knew any more about how Luna Eden was doing." "She didn't say much in her messages," I explained, and he rolled his eyes, likely avoiding discussing it because she is getting a little fed up with it now. Not the baby, of course. Just being pregnant. She is ready for the little one to arrive. He told me with a polite smile. I nodded. "I can understand that. What were you going to say?" I urged him to continue. "Oh, just that we should go have our coffees," he suggested, and I found myself smiling, but nodded to agree, and he walked into the staff room, knowing I would be going to meet the children I would be teaching and their parents very soon. "I hope you haven't been giving my new girl a hard time, Beta Asher," Ally says to the beta as she passed him his coffee, a smile upon her face. "I don't want her to be leaving before she has even started." "I don't believe so," he says curtly, glancing toward me, and I slowly shook my head, any familiarity or ease between us gone. Was he just not comfortable around people? He seemed fidgety now, like he didn't want to be here. "Good. I know you are here to do a job, but I am capable of making sure she is okay, you know." She looked at Beta Asher with a grin. "But feel free to call in later to check in later if Luna Eden is breathing down your neck to make sure Bailey is managing okay. Though I am sure she is more than capable of doing her job." I saw a frown momentarily pass across his face, but he moved toward the counter side and placed his mug on it with a nod. "Okay. I know when I am not needed." He looked toward Ally with a smile before looking toward me. "Enjoy your first day. My being here was never doubting your abilities, Miss West." And with that he walked out of the staff room, leaving Ally and Gabby both looking at me curiously. And it seemed I was back to Miss West. That guy's personality was enough to give you whiplash. "Well, you are honored, Miss Bailey," Gabby said with a giggle. "A personal visit from Beta Asher on your first day." I felt my palms go sweaty at her words. Was she implying there was something going on there? Did they not realize the only reason he had come was because he was under duress? I forced a laugh out and shook my head. He was only here because Luna Eden had told him he had to come and check I was okay. While she is in the hospital, he just said so. I quickly explained, and I saw Ally watching me. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she nodded as if in agreement. Yeah, he told me the same. She agreed. Shall we go see your classroom, Bailey, dear? I nodded, desperate to get away from Gabby before she tried to imply anything else about me in the beta. I did not need idle gossip about me spreading around the pack before I had even settled in. I needed this job to work for me. I needed to be able to stay away from my pack. But, as I walked from the staff room with Ally, she was still watching me. And then she smiled at me, almost a knowing smile. He is a good man, the beta. You know, she told me. I looked at her with confusion, not sure where she would be going with this conversation. Okay. I nodded, suddenly wanting to be away from her too. What was the point of her telling me that? I know he comes across as intimidating and awfully dark and moody and grumpy. And, well, let us just say the list is likely to go on. But that is just the effect of losing his mate, I believe. He wasn't like that when I met him. When my daughter met him, she said, opening the door to where I already knew was my classroom, and I was suddenly curious why she felt the need to tell me this. And why did she mention her daughter? Of course, I knew he had lost his mate. Things like that tend to spread across the packs. Rumors. I had also heard it had turned him into somewhat of a recluse too. Isolated himself. And from what I had seen, I could believe it. I wasn't going to judge him for it. What right did I have to do that? Losing your mate was meant to be the worst pain there was. The forceful breaking of a mate bond. He must have suffered terribly. So why would he not be withdrawn? But why this woman felt she needed to explain it to me? I don't know. I had heard he lost his mate. News like that does tend to cross through packs, I explained. But I would not judge him for struggling, Mrs. Sullivan. Everybody deals with grief differently. He seems like a wonderful beta, I said, trying hard to sound professional. I needed this woman to like me. She nodded. I am glad you see it that way. Many fear him because of his darkness, and he doesn't deserve that. We all struggled when we lost Isla. She was the light of our life, my sweet girl. But because of their mate bond, he seemed to take it the hardest. I experienced the same loss when I too lost my mate, so I know his loss. But he was young, and he deserves a future, a life. She says with a sad smile. My mind quickly tried to process her words. Was this woman the mother of Beta Asher's former mate? Well, that was not something I was expecting to learn. Didn't that mean the warrior I was talking to, and the man he was yelling at for being near me, was his former brother-in-law? I am sorry for your loss, I said quietly, wanting to acknowledge all she had said, but not sure what to say. She gently placed her hand upon mine. I apologize. I have dulled the sparkle of your first day, dear. We need to brighten things up. Are you excited? You should be. The children are a delight. Quite a bundle of fun. I am sure they will love you. The stand-in teachers we have had to use have not been the same as a regular teacher. I have been looking forward to this since doing my degree. I told her with a smile. Well, let us go and meet the little pups. And get the fun started. You are going to be perfect, dear. I felt the pain of impact as my fist went through the drywall, and it shattered under the pressure of my fist as I punched the wall hard in anger. I was sick of this place. Why my own family had felt the need to actually send me to a different pack to gain treatment for my anger. I did not know. Being away from my own pack was not what I needed right now, and being in this secure environment, as they called it, was more like being kept in a fucking prison. Therapy and anger management were making no difference. There was nothing wrong with me, so there was nothing to treat. So, I do not know what they expected to happen while I was here. Were they expecting some sort of miracle and expecting some sort of angel to emerge from the wreckage that I had apparently become? They would be seriously disappointed if that was the case. Miles, please calm down. Ben, one of the therapists, urged me. All we ask is you come and do a small amount of the session with us. I already fucking told you I wouldn't be leaving my room, so fuck off. I roared, sick of the sight of this fool. What would it take for him to get the message? I heard him sigh. This time it was more than audible. I think I was beginning to irritate the stupid little fucker, so my plan may be working. Hopefully, he would start to get bored with asking me soon and give up. Meaning he would leave me alone for the day, like the other idiot had done yesterday and the day before. I had soon learned that if I got angry enough and used my alpha aura, they struggled to cope with it. And after so long they would back down and walk away. Meaning, I got the peace I craved, and I got my own way. As it should be. I have to say it was almost amusing. Watching them run away like terrified little ants under my shoe. They had to realize by now that their pathetic attempts at treatment were just not going to work. Whatever their fucked up ideas of treatment were, they were simply not needed. I was not ill. I was not broken nor damaged. I was simply too strong. I had ideas too powerful for my own father to contemplate. And he didn't like it. I believed he feared me, and this was his solution. Panicking. He had sought out a solution by locking me up. He would be disappointed. If you want to finish this treatment program, Miles, and leave, then at some point you are going to have to begin the treatment at some point. A different voice began. A voice I didn't recognize. A beautiful voice. A she-wolf. My head spun around to look at her. Tall, slim, long blonde hair twisted into a bun upon her head. Big green eyes focused upon me. Who are you? I demanded. Me? She asked, placing her hand over her chest. A curvy chest, perfectly in proportion to the rest of her body. Curves to die for actually when I take a closer look at her. My name is Kaya. One of the staff here, and I could hear you from down the corridor. She says to me with a disparaging look. Did she not know I was an alpha? She should not be talking to me like that or looking at me like that either? Did she not even care? And? I said bluntly, irritated by her lack of respect for me. Well, I wanted to know who was throwing a tantrum like a little boy, and decided to come and tell him to put his big boy pants on and come and do his treatment. She said to me with her brows raised a little as if in challenge. Who the fuck was this woman? Her big green eyes seemed to sparkle as they glared at me, not an ounce of fear there. I did not understand this she-wolf. And why was she not respecting my title? Even more so. Why was she turning me on that she would challenge me like that? I quickly sat down to hide the increasing issue within my trousers that she was unexpectedly causing. Do you know who I am? I snarled, and she tossed her head back with a laugh, and it was a joyful sound. Yes, I do. But at the end of the day, the title means very little here. Especially when you choose to act like a small child throwing a fit of rage, all because you are being asked to do something you don't want to do. Perhaps, if you were more of a man you wouldn't even be here. Her words hit me hard. And I saw the other member of staff give her a dark glare as if in warning, but she simply smirked in response. I felt anger pulsing through every vein within my body. Yet even more surprising to me was there was a desire there too. A need to grab her. Kiss her. No, I need to stop thinking like that. She was nobody. A simple member of staff, and she was not showing me the respect I should be given. I don't know who the fuck you are talking to me like that. I snarled again. I am your ticket out of here if you fucking do as you are told. You thick piece of shit, she said to me with a smile. Kaya, Ben mutters. You have been told about this. Does this girl think she is something more than she actually is? Because she certainly should not be talking to me like that. And I imagine she should not be talking to patients in general like that. Well, he is getting on my fucking nerves, acting all entitled, all because his daddy is the alpha. We could all do that. Couldn't we? She raised her brows at me. Wait, was she implying she was an alpha's daughter? Was that why my rank did not bother her? If so, you are the alpha's daughter. I demanded an answer, my mind working overtime. She walked over to me, leaning down so her eyes were level with me where I was sitting. Wouldn't you like to know? And with that she walked toward the door. But I do suggest you sort your sorry head out and get some treatment done, or you will be here for an awfully long time, Miles, and trust me, you don't want that. She added as she left the room. My eyes were on Kaya as her body swayed almost seductively out of the room. My mind was blown by how she was being toward me. When Ben's voice disturbed my line of thoughts. So, Miles, are we going to try some treatment sessions today? He suggested. I considered everything Kaya had just said. I guess trying them wouldn't hurt. The way Ally had dismissed me had made me feel like my presence had been unnecessary. Made me feel like a fool, despite the fact Eden had asked me to go there on her behalf. I could not shake the thought now that perhaps Bailey was wondering why I had turned up to see her before she began her new job. Would she think I didn't think she was capable? I truly hope that wasn't the case, or else I would owe her another apology. I seemed to be racking up a list of apologies I owed the poor girl. Why do you care so much? Zion piped up as I stepped back into the pack house. What? I questioned. Why do you care so much what the new girl thinks? He asks gleefully. I don't care. I just don't want her thinking badly of me when she has just arrived. I huffed. So you don't care what she thinks, but you do care if she thinks badly of you when she has just arrived. Zion chuckled to himself. Go figure, but it is okay. I assume if, after a few months, she realizes you are a total jackass and thinks badly of you. Seriously, Zion, I warned him. What? He asks innocently. I'm not doing nothing. I stormed along the corridor, angry now. By the way, my wolf seemed to love irritating me. Not to mention I had yet to even have my fucking morning coffee, since Ally had booted me from the school before my coffee had been drinkable. It had still been at the hot as lava level when I had put the mug to my mouth. So drinking it hadn't been an option. Hey, Asher. Eden's voice rang through the mind link just as I opined my office door, making me roll my eyes. Great, just what I needed. Her giving me a hard time now. Did I ever get a break in this bloody place? I swear it was one thing after another. Hello, Eden. How is my new girl doing? She asked sweetly. How kind. She doesn't even ask how I am or how my day is going. Straight to the work she has me running around doing for her. Nice. You should know, seeing as you had already messaged her. I said bluntly, far from impressed that she had sent me all the way to school to apparently check in with Bailey for her when Eden had already messaged her. Oh, she told you. Eden chuckled. I was kind of hoping she wouldn't. Imagine that. So, why did you make me rush over there? I demanded, far from impressed with my friend's mate, missed my morning coffee because of you. I snapped. Oh, Ash, stop being such a grumpa-lump. She teased. Missing one of your million daily coffees isn't likely to harm you. May even do you some good, you know. Besides, I thought getting out of your office might do you good too. And it does look good that we are going there to show her the senior team are welcoming her. I already told you that I welcomed her when she arrived. That was difficult enough, and you welcomed her by messaging her Eden. I don't think I needed to get out of my office. If I do, I can make that call. I don't need you doing it for me. Ash, don't be snappy. I know it is difficult, And I know you have likely reached your monthly people interaction level for this month, but we cannot risk losing her. So, go check how she got on when she is done for the day, for me please. You know I would do it, but this mini Caleb inside my huge belly is being a pain and making life difficult. You know that, right? She links, sounding almost desolate with me. God damn it. She was manipulative when she wanted to be, making me feel sorry for her. It isn't her fault she is stuck in the hospital. Fine, I snapped, hating that I was too soft, giving in far too easily. You are the best. Thanks. And with that she was gone, cutting the mind link, like that was the only reason she had linked me in the first place. There and then gone, leaving me to my paperwork. I swear, sometimes Eden was unbearable. After hours of paperwork and dashing to various places around the pack completing tasks of both mine and the alpha, I realized the time was now nearing for the end of the school day. So I figured I had best make my way up to the school, or else Eden would no doubt be hunting me down to give me one hell of a hard time for not doing as I was told. And quite frankly, I did not need that. And I knew just how capable she was of making my headache worse. I rushed from the busy pack house out into the sunshine, which was slightly more bearable than it had been this morning. Now I had had several coffees, and I was functioning as close to normal as my body got. As I reached near the school grounds I could hear laughter, and I looked up to see Bailey out in the grounds of the school with the children who, I assume, are her class. I stood for a moment, as I saw her smiling down at them. She was kneeling on the grass, surrounded by the youngsters, all around 6 years of age, and I could see her gently touching them on the head before they touched her head in response. And she was laughing as they did. I wasn't close enough to know what she was saying or doing, but whatever it was, the children were smiling and looking at their new teacher in awe. And strangely, the sight warmed my heart. I walked a little closer, planning to wait until school had finished before going into the school building, already dreading the thought of seeing the other teachers. Though seeing Bailey was far from the top of my list of things I wanted to do. I continued to watch her as I waited though, intrigued by the way she was so comfortable with the children, and the way they too seemed at ease in her presence. I found myself smiling at the way her eyes seemed to light up as she smiled at the children. How she was so full of enthusiasm. Maybe Eden had been right. Maybe she was what the pack needed. She looked like a natural. A sudden sound startled me, as what could only be described as close to a purr slipped from me. Or should I say from Zion, as I watched Bailey teach her class. I quickly moved to behind a nearby tree, leaning heavily on the trunk of the tree, my body almost trembling in shock. I needed to move before she saw me. What the hell was that? I demanded of my wolf, confused at his reaction to her. This was not how a wolf should be acting towards some random she-wolf, but suddenly my wolf had gone quiet. There was no reaction nor response from him. He seemed to have gone AWOL. I waved off my final pupil of the day, having had the best day ever. I loved my new class. Every single child was the sweetest little thing. All such characters, and I could see myself having such fun teaching them all. I would likely say it at every school I went on to teach at, but I think it was the place I was meant to be. I felt fulfilled being here, and it made every late night finishing assignments worth it. Finally, I was able to call myself a teacher. And I knew I had made the right choice. I was just tidying my classroom up when the classroom door opened, making me jump a little, and I turned wondering if it was one of the parents having forgotten something, or perhaps one of the other two teachers coming to see how my day had gone. So I was more than a little surprised to see Beta Asher standing there. He was the last person I expected to see here in all honesty. After the way he had been this morning, and how awkwardly he had left, but he was here all the same, and his green eyes were watching me pretty intensely from across the room, and what I think may be a small smile appeared to be playing upon his lips. "Hey, Beta Asher?" I greeted him with a smile, I wasn't expecting to see you. Hey Bailey, He faltered slightly, making me chuckle. Luna Eden sent you to check in on me again? I teased him and I saw a little color come to his cheeks. I will take that as a yes, shall I? He sighed, sitting himself on the edge of my desk. See, you make me sound bad when you say that. ABW. And when have you ever been bothered by what I think? I said with a grin, and he laughed. Would you believe me if I said I did care what you thought? He said with a wry smile, as I came to join him sitting on the edge of my desk now that the classroom was all but tidy. Probably not, considering how our previous conversations have gone, I admitted, and he chuckled. I think he needs a doctor or a computer engineer. He is seriously malfunctioning. Akira giggled. This is the most he has smiled and laughed since we got here? Did someone spike his drink? I chewed my lower lip to stop myself from smiling at the things my wolf was saying about him, but I think she may be right. Not about him needing a doctor or being spiked. Those were both a little harsh, but that this is likely the most he has smiled or laughed with us since we had arrived. This was definitely out of the character I had come to expect of him. Okay, I likely deserved that. So, putting aside that you don't think I care, how did your first day go? Asher's head tilted to look at me. It was so good, I said with a smile. The pups are the sweetest little bunch of hooligans. Asher threw his head back, laughing. Well, that is not a way I expected to hear the beautiful children of our pack described, especially by a teacher. He raised his brows at me, and I shook my head at him before he added, But you could not be less wrong. They are little monsters, right? ABW? I think they are wonderful. I love working with them. I told him, knowing I sounded full of emotion as I do, and I could see him watching me as I spoke. A gentle smile on his face as he listened. It makes all my hard work worth it. Well, they are lucky to have you as your teacher. I would say Bailey, he says softly, placing his hand upon my leg, making me jump slightly in shock at the contact. I raised my gaze to meet his big green eyes, full of confusion. My head feeling a little confused, and light itself right now, just as the classroom door opened again, causing Beta Asher to suddenly move away from me, like he didn't want to be caught near me. As Ally walked into the classroom, Oh, hello Beta Asher. I didn't realize you had come to check in on our beautiful Bailey again. She winked at me, as if relaying some secret message that I wasn't quite understanding. He stuttered a little, causing Ally to smile at him, which only caused him to blush. Luna Eden asked me to call in to see how her first day had gone. I would not be here otherwise, he said, like he suddenly gained composure. Had we made him feel uncomfortable? Beta. There is nothing like making the poor girl feel like she is an inconvenience to your day, Ally said with a frown. I apologize, Bailey. Beta Asher here is not the best at thinking before he speaks. Beta Asher rolled his eyes while Akira is giggling within my mind. I like this lady, she tells me. She says it as it is. And she makes the big bad Beta feel bad. I did not mean to make you feel like an inconvenience, Miss West, he said formally, making me wonder where that calm and sweet guy from a few moments earlier had gone. Oh, we Miss West again. He needs teaching a few lessons, I'd say, Akira piped up again. I was just about to tell my wolf to shut up when I saw how uncomfortable Beta Asher looked, and I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Honestly, it is fine. I know Luna Eden asked you to come. I know she will give you a hard time if you don't. I also know you weren't trying to make me out to be an inconvenience. You do not need to explain yourself, I said, softly to him. ABW, see? Aren't you lucky? She is such a sweet girl, Beta. She has done a wonderful job today. We are lucky to have her here, Beta Asher. Wouldn't you say? Ally says, looking intently at the beta who looked at me before he spoke. Yes, I think we are lucky to have her, he said quietly, before he quickly looked away from me and walked silently from the room. What is it about that woman that messes with my mind, puts me on edge and makes me question my own sanity? Not to mention the fact my wolf seems to have gone missing in action ever since I caught him all but gazing adoringly at her. None of this made sense. She was no connection to me, nor would she be. And the way Ally was suddenly dropping these bizarre comments made me feel uneasy. I rushed from the classroom, down the now empty corridor toward the school door. Ah, here again, Beta Asher. Gabby, the other teacher, greeted me with a cheeky wink. Anyon would think you were checking up on us. Oh, wonderful. Just what I needed. Another teacher making comments implying things too. I should just have stayed in my office. It was safer there. There were no other people. No, Miss Waterdale. Here simply, as Luna Eden asked of me, checking in on the new member of staff to check she had settled in okay. I said curtly, beginning to get irritated at their implication that I was here, because I wanted to be, or even because there was something between Bailey and I, because I am certain that that was what they were trying to imply. Well, they could not be further from the truth with that. Had Eden not forced me to be here, I would be sitting back in my office with a coffee in my hand, feeling perfectly fine. Oh, Gabby said with an uncomfortable nod, looking at me fearfully like I had roared at her or something. I swear, this reputation of me as being this grumpy and moody guy was so over-exaggerated. I was not that bad. I waited, expecting a sly dig from Zion at this point, as that sort of thought from me would definitely earn it usually. But there was nothing. He was definitely deserting me right now. Ah, well, not like it made much difference. It just meant I wouldn't be going for my usual run with him. Plus, on a positive note, it means I get to have some peace. I quickly pushed the door open of the school, glad to get away and try to free my mind of everything that had happened today. But as I do leave the school, I am surprised to see Mark standing there. Hey, Asher, he greeted me with a smile. I nodded at him in acknowledgement to his greeting. But I could not help but wonder if he was here to see his mum or Bailey. You, okay? He asked me, frowning slightly, likely at my overjoyed face. You don't look too happy. I am fine. Getting a little tired of running errands for other people. You here to meet your mom? I asked. Unable to help myself, feeling an undeniable need to answer my curiosity. Mum suggested, I come and welcome Bailey, he said with a smile. I mentioned to her that I had met her the other day, and she found the story quite amusing. My breathing began to quicken for no apparent reason. He was here to see Bailey. Was that why Ally wanted me to leave? I simply nodded. Well, I shall leave you to it then. I do believe she is in the classroom with your mum. Asher, are you okay? Mark started to walk alongside me, as I began to walk away. I know you got uncomfortable at us talking about this the other day, but you seem genuinely disappointed now at the mention of me calling in to see Bailey. If you are unsure of how you feel for her, then I understand that. You know, I will head home, tell Mum I got held up at work. I gave him a dark glare. For fuck's sake. What is it with people implying this today? Miss Waterdale just implied the same thing. I am sure of it, and I am sure your mum is dropping hints. There is nothing between Miss West and I. Eden asked me to check in on her. Told me to make her welcome. But it seems to involve me having to be around her more than I may like. I snapped, and I found Mark looking at me curiously, with a smirk upon his face. Okay. If you say so. You were always a weird one, Ash, he nodded. I may head back to work anyway. I missed some training to come here. And if I go into school, Mum will likely find me things to do, and I will never get away. You don't need to make excuses for me, Mark. I told him with a roll of my eyes, wondering if his excuse was for my benefit, thinking he did not believe my reasoning. Oh, it isn't. I snuck away, and if Gamma realizes he will kick my ass. He chuckled. So if he sees me with you, he may go easy on me. I rolled my eyes at him. So you are using me as your excuse? I questioned. What are old brother-in-laws for? He grinned, and I laughed. Fair enough. I said with a shrug. So, did the beautiful Bailey have a good first day? Mark asked me with a smile, and I rolled my eyes once more. If you think she is that beautiful, Mark, then go back to school. I told him icily. But from what I heard, yes, she loved it. Need to keep hold of this one, eh? What the hell did that mean? Why would I need to keep hold of her? I snapped. Mark laughed, and with a shake of his head he looked at me. I think you may want to reconsider that thought that you aren't interested in her, Ash. He playfully slapped me on the shoulder. Wouldn't be in any shame in it. You wouldn't be betraying Isla either. It has been 7 years now. Finding another mate wouldn't be the end of the world. Better than being alone, right? I quickly increased my speed. Fuck off, Mark. You haven't got a fucking clue. Therapy was as horrendous as I expected. Talk about this. Miles. Talk about that. Miles. How does this make you feel? Miles. How does that make you feel? Miles, I was ready to tear their heads off by the end of it, but I had to prove to this Kaya that I was more than capable of doing this treatment. I would not allow her to belittle me and compare me to a tantrum-throwing toddler. She seemed to think she was above me, but I would find a way to show her otherwise. Well, I think that is enough for now, Ben told me with a small smile, yet the fear within his eyes betrayed him. This fool was absolutely terrified of me. Exactly the way I liked it to be as well. He wouldn't argue with me then. He knew his place. Too right it is, I said coldly, but I or one of the other staff members will come and find you in a little while for your next session, he said, and the tremble in his voice told me he was anxious about telling me that. More, I demanded. They had to be kidding. I had given in and agreed to this session. Why could that not be enough? They should be grateful for that. Kaya asked that you attend all the sessions we require of you to ensure the program is completed as quickly as possible, Ben said nervously. Kaya asked that. His words had caught my attention by the simple mention of her name. Why was she involving herself in my care all of a sudden? I am sure I have not met her before now. She had most definitely not been treating me before this. I would have remembered a girl like that. Ben nodded. Your parents have been in touch. They wanted a likely date of completion. When we told them no progress had been made, they were far from pleased. I rolled my eyes, my fists clenched in fury. What on earth would possess them to tell my parents that? Of course. My parents would be irritated by that news if they had sent me here with the hope of me being fixed upon my return, expecting me to be the good little boy they so desperately craved for a son. Attending every therapy session offered to me, cooperating with everything I was asked. It was like they didn't even know me at all. And why did that involve Kaya? I inquired, trying to push back the building anger. I needed answers as to why she was suddenly involved. Ben looked at me curiously. Kaya is the Alpha's daughter, the youngest of 8 children. She felt almost irrelevant within the pack, hence her doing her training for her role here. But obviously, the treatment center here is used frequently by other packs as an alternative to treatment out in the human world. Unfortunately, when things are not going as planned, the Alphas tend to go straight to the Alpha to complain. And that was exactly what your father did. Ben fidgeted nervously with his hands as he spoke. Wonderful. So now the Alpha here is aware I did not want to do my treatment, I asked. Nothing like making him question my abilities as an alpha for the future. Ben chewed his lower lip anxiously now, before meeting my angry glare. I think with the way you have been shouting, or ranting and raving, Miles, most of the pack were aware, in all honesty, but as I was saying, your father went to the alpha. The alpha went to his daughter telling her to deal with the issue. So, Kaya came to deal with your treatment plan personally. And that was what happened when she walked in this morning. I nodded. So, she is part of my treatment team now? I held back the small smile forming on my lips. I think I could come to like the idea of Kaya treating me. I could think of many ways that girl could make me feel better, that I am unsure of. But she is most certainly involved in ensuring you complete the program as quickly as possible. So, it will be multiple treatment sessions a day, I am afraid, Ben said as we reached the door to my room. Wonderful, I said sarcastically, as I walked inside, harshly closing the door on him, surprised to find Kaya sitting inside. Miles, she said icily, I wondered how long you would be. My heart rate instantly picked up at the sight of her. She was too good to be wasting away working as a team member in some treatment center. I have completed the treatment session as you requested, I said sarcastically. Oh, I did not request a thing. That was of your own free will. I think you will find alpha, she said with a smirk, and the word alpha from her lips had my cock twitching within my pants for her. I think I would disagree with that, I said with a smirk, moving over to where she was sitting. From what I have heard, there isn't much you don't disagree with alpha. She almost purrs at me, but, as I said, nobody forced you to attend your treatment. We merely asked you, and today, you chose to go. So, that was a good decision on your part, I would say. I moved closer, deeply inhaling the perfume I could smell upon her. And do I get rewarded for my good decision? I almost whispered into her ear. My voice is deep and hoarse. She quickly moved away from me, a look of shock upon her face. I don't know what you are thinking, Miles, but I, for one, do not work like that. Right now, you are my patient, she said, moving toward the door as I quickly grabbed her hand and stopped her. Her gaze quickly met mine, and I saw a slight amount of fear there. But it was exactly that. Slight. Her gaze was filled mainly with anger. I don't think this woman found me intimidating the way the others did, and I swear it drove me wild. Where are you going? I murmured, as I moved myself closer to her once again. I have a job to do, Miles. As I have said, you are my patient. So, I would appreciate you taking your hands from me. I had come to your room at my father's request, simply to inform you that your parents plan to call you shortly. However, if you cannot be trusted to have staff members come to your room alone without you assuming they are here for sexual favors, then perhaps I should have you move to a multiple occupancy room, she said, raising her brows at me, questioning me. I am a fucking alpha. I ain't sharing a room, I snapped. Yes. Well, not quite, are you? And if you continue with this sort of behavior, I imagine being alpha will fall to your younger brother. But I am a fucking alpha's daughter. And I don't think my daddy would like to know you are trying to grope his little girl. So take your hands off me. She moved her face a little closer to mine. Now, she added with a hiss, making me drop her arm. She gave me a small smirk as she began to walk away from me. Good. Start learning to listen and do as you are told, Miles, and you may actually succeed, she said, giving me a sarcastic wink before closing my room door, leaving me standing in the middle of my room wondering who the hell this girl was and why she seemed to have such an effect on me. I had headed to the dining hall for my dinner, looking forward to going back to my room and relaxing for the evening. So, I was more than a little surprised to have seen Mark, the warrior who had saved me from getting lost, as I queued up. He had waved as he came into the hall with some other warriors and came across to see me, a big smile upon his face. "Well, hello. He winked. "You didn't get lost on your way here then," he teased, gaining some curious gazes from the men with him. I shook my head and gave him a disparaging look. "Ooh, funny. You left your sense of humor out there then?" I asked, and he grinned. "So, come on then, Miss Bailey. How did your first day go? I have been thinking of you all day." He paused momentarily. That sounded bad, didn't it? One of the other warriors with him looked at him with a grin and nodded. "Was that why Wes could bring you down?" Mark gave him a sarcastic grin. "Funny, Bailey knew what I meant. She is working with my mum. Mum has been on about her working there for the last few days, so I was wondering how she got on is all," he explained, and the guys with him, all dressed in the black cargos and black t-shirts and heavy black boots, that seemed to be the uniform for the warriors, nodded as if they agreed. "Well, thank you for asking, whether you were being weird or not. My first day was good, thanks," I told him, and he winked. "No problem, princess," he said as we moved along in the queue. "These are some of the guys from the team I work in, Wes, Aziz, and Felix." He introduced his friends and I smiled at each of them, while they nodded at me in greeting. We waited a little while longer within the queue, and I stood awkwardly as the four of them joked around. So, as soon as I had the opportunity, I sorted my food and said my goodbyes to Mark and his friends, feeling it was better to give them their space, and to be honest, I was craving peace again. So I went to find a quiet place at a table in the corner of the dining hall where I tended to go and eat on my own each evening. I was surprised when I looked up to find Mark had come to sit with me. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "You don't have to sit with me." "Go sit with your friends," I told him, really unsure why he would choose to come and sit with me when he barely knew me. "And have the lady sit on her own?" he said with a smile. "What sort of gentleman would that make me?" One, that I assume from how Beta Asher reacted, isn't much of gentleman, I teased, and he chuckled. Is that right? You want to remember I saved you. So, I am some form of a gentleman," he playfully grinned. "And there was me thinking you were a sweet girl." I smiled with a shake of my head. "I don't think I said that. Ooh. Now this sounds fun." He wiggled his eyebrows at me suggestively, and I felt myself blushing, completely not meaning it the way he seemed to be now implying. "That is not what I meant. Double, you spoil sport, getting a boy excited." He winked at me before eating his food. I laughed. He seemed to be so easygoing and funny, carefree and liking to tease. In some ways, he reminded me a little of Harley. "Did you have a good day at work?" I asked him, and soon I found myself lost in his tales of his warrior training sessions he had endured during the day. But I found myself laughing at the way he told them. Again, in this way, he reminded so much of Harley, always able to make a story sound amusing. He sounded like he was a pretty senior warrior within the pack from the way he spoke, and the way he spoke of his training and his team. I could see that being a warrior meant a lot to him. "I bet your mum is proud of you," I told him with a smile. "I think so. Maybe a little, though scared too, after losing Dad through being a warrior," he says, looking down at his hands, and I realized he felt a little uncomfortable. "I am sorry," I told him, unsure what else to say in such an awkward situation. "Why are you sorry, princess? Not your fault. A risk of the job. We all know that when we do it, doesn't stop us doing it," he says with a sad smile before looking up. As he looked up, so did I, and it was only as I did that I realized that the dining hall was almost empty now. We must have been chatting for ages. The conversation had been so easy and free. "Wow. I think I have been boring you for long enough, Bailey. Go back to your room. Have a soak in the bath and relax," I think you earned it today. He winked at me. I am off to the gym. Really? I asked, shocked he would be going to the gym after training all day and after just eating. Hey, I didn't become this perfect without putting some hard work in, he said with a grin as he walked away. See you soon, Bailey. Have a good night, sweet cheeks. The nickname he gave me just then was a serious reminder of Harley, and I struggled to fight the tears that were threatening. Yet I smiled at him, giving him a wave as he walked away. Memories of Harley seem fresh in my mind because of the way he reminded me so much of him. I dropped my head into my hands as I picked up my phone, looking at the photographs I had of him, and I felt the tears prickling in my eyes as I did. I hated how things had turned out. I quickly stood up, knowing I didn't want to be seen crying in the dining hall, so I made my way out of the hall, needing desperately to get back to my room. But my fingers lingered over Harley's contact details, contemplating messaging him or even calling him as I walked back toward my room, but I quickly shoved my phone back into my bag, fighting the threatening tears. My head was all over right now, so distracted with too many thoughts of him. Yet, I know I needed to allow him this time to adjust to life with his new mate. I needed to let him go. He had never really been mine, and I should have known that. It was only as I got to the top of the stairs onto the landing I crashed into the toned body of someone, face first. All because I had been distracted. With a heavy thud as I impacted them, I stumbled a little, and there was nothing I could do. I began to fall backwards, my heart racing at the fear of me falling, my arms flailing desperate to grip onto something. My eyes tight shut, fearful of the fall to the bottom of the stairs. But suddenly, two strong arms grabbed me and pulled me upward. As I was pulled into the embrace of someone, as I pried my eyes open, my gaze met the eyes of Asher. I had been on my way back to my office to do some additional work, just the usual for me of an evening. I hadn't been paying attention to where I was going as I was reading an article on my phone, and it was only when I felt the impact to my chest that I realized Bailey was there. The second I realized she was falling, I quickly went into action and leaped forward, grabbing her and pulling her to me. My heart pounding in desperate fear filling me that she was going to fall all the way down the stairs. But, thankfully, I had her in my arms as I lowered myself onto the top step, Bailey still in my arms, both of us trembling. Her eyes had been clenched shut, but she slowly pried them open, looking at me with what could only be described as a look of horror and embarrassment. She jumped back, as if my touch was repulsive to her. And I had to say I was a little hurt by that, but tried hard to ignore it. Are you okay? I asked her, trying to check her over, as she quickly moved herself from my embrace to sit herself next to me. How do I seem to find myself in these messes? She nodded. Sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going. I noticed a loose strand of her hair falling over her face, and I don't know why, but I found myself reaching out to gently brush it back, but I saw her eyes widen at me as I did. Did I do the wrong thing? Should I not have touched her? Was she hurt? Now I was more worried she might be hurt. Yet her big brown eyes look up at me, and I swear my heart pounds harder in my chest as she looks at me, not saying a thing. I think I may have been preoccupied too, I told her, not wanting her to take all the blame. Then as I looked at her, I saw tears leaking from her eyes. Had she been crying before? Or was it through what had happened? I am sure I had stopped her falling, so she shouldn't have hurt herself badly. I am sure of that, she shrugged, going to stand up, but I reached for her hand without even thinking, wanting to check she was okay. Bailey, you look like you have been crying. Is everything okay? I asked softly. Did you hurt yourself when I stopped you falling? Are you hurt? Questions seemed to blurt from my mouth, making me sound like a blathering fool right now. but I was desperate to know if she was okay, as she lowered herself back down to sit down alongside me on the top step. She shook her head. I am fine. Beta Asher. Really, I am. I had to say I was missing all of Zion's sly comments right now, because no doubt he would have plenty to say right now. But, since he had left me earlier today, he had yet to return. And as much as I had said I would be glad of the peace, his absence was beginning to bother me, though Bailey's lack of information bothered me too. She didn't seem fine. There was a wobble in her voice, but I don't know if that was simply because she was shaken from nearly falling down the stairs. That would make sense. But would that make her cry? I am not so sure that it would. Bailey, I know I have not made the best first impression, and I doubt I ever will. I am not the best with people. But please, Eden is desperate for me to make sure you are okay. I paused, contemplating if I should be honest here or not. And in truth, I want to make sure you are okay too. Me, not Eden, me. I know there are some things you are not sharing with us. I faltered slightly, unsure how to word what I wanted to say, while Bailey looked at me a little confused, a little scared. Could I blame her? No, because in truth I think they were a safe estimate of how I feel right now, and little rarely scared me. I ran my hands through my hair in frustration, realizing she was expecting me to continue what I was saying. I am even worse with words. Look, I realize some things are private, so you may not want to share them. But I am worried about you. Maybe I have no right to be. But I am. You look like you have been crying. Or want to cry. And that bothers me. Look. You can tell me to mind my own business. And in truth, I probably would if I were you. But, is there anything I can help with? My words feel jumbled as they blurt from my mouth. I sit. My breathing rapid as I am feeling like a total idiot at the words I have just blurted out, as Bailey looks at me, completely lost. Then, she suddenly sighed. A sigh that sounded like it came from her feet. It was so deep. But, she shook her head. Beta Asher. Honestly, it isn't even worth talking about. Is any shit that makes you feel crappy? I said. And she looked at me in surprise. And didn't I say to call me Asher? I reminded her. She shrugged in response to my words. Fine, Asher. And I have to say, I am surprised just how good my name sounds from her lips. It sounds pretty good, but she continued. Like I said, it isn't even worth talking about, or worrying you about. Let me say it is just me feeling sad over something that was never even mine, she said quietly, before looking down at her feet, a blush of embarrassment crossing her face. You missing the guy who met his fated mate, I guess? I asked, and at my words I saw the pain across her face. I know my guess was likely right. I don't think there would be any shame in that, especially if you guys were close. It is like losing someone, right? Losing a link that was there, and now it feels like it is lost. I suggested how I saw it. Though it pains me to admit, I hate the thought of her being close to another guy. Bailey shrugged. And suddenly, out of nowhere, Zion is back. After being absent all afternoon and evening, he is back pacing within my mind, so on edge, and he is whimpering like he can sense her pain, and he doesn't like it. Not one little bit. Like he did not like to see her struggling. What is going on with my wolf today? I only prayed he did not get any louder, or she would be hearing him, and I had no clue how I could explain that. I sound like I feel sorry for myself, but I don't. I just have the occasional moment where things get on top of me, I guess. I can say without doubt I would never have wanted to be with Miles. He treated me so badly before and after he rejected me. I had a lucky escape, but I can't help but wonder if my own fated mate didn't want me. And the guy I turned to and trusted enough to consider as a chosen mate isn't there for me now, if I am forever going to be alone. She whispered, and her words are so quiet they are barely audible, but because I am sitting next to her, I can hear her, and I can feel the pain within her voice. I saw a tear slide down her face. It sounded like she had been through too much, far too young. But I know this pain she is talking of, because I have felt the same pain in the years since Isla died. A pain that eats away at you. One that makes you wonder if you can cope. The fear of forever being alone. I looked across at Asher and saw a sadness upon his face, and I realized I had said far too much. I am not the only one who has had their own struggles. I should stop being selfish and stop focusing on my own worries. I had been given a fresh start here in this pack. I didn't want to mess that up. Beta Asher had been through so much more than me. And here I was feeling sorry for myself to him. He must think of me as a silly little girl. I began to stand, thinking it better to give him some space, and again he placed his hand upon mine. "Are you going to be okay?" he asked softly, so far from the ruthless and callous Beta I had met on that first night. It was unreal. In many ways it was like he was a completely different guy. Hell, he almost seems human. Well, not human, werewolf. But kind, caring, decent. A good guy, who would have thunk it? Akira chuckled, but for once, I didn't find her little digs at Asher all that funny. He genuinely did seem like a decent guy, even if some of it was being forced by Luna Eden. Maybe my mind had been that messed up with everything that was going on in my life. I had been too quick to judge him. He had enough to deal with, and did not need bringing down by me and my pathetic worries. I smiled. "Yeah, I am always good." I lied, and flicked my hair back from my face before looking at him again. I get these occasional low moments, and then pick myself right back up. I will be good. You don't need to worry yourself about me, Asher. Some chocolate, and I am good to go, he chuckled. I may have some chocolate back at my place if you want to come and share. Keep one another company for a little while, so your mind isn't drifting back to the same things, he suggested, a little tentatively. Taking me by surprise, I had to say. That offer seemed so out of the blue, and so unlike him. I truly didn't know how to react to his offer. Ooh, the beta li ikkis you. Akira giggled, clearly thinking this was a perfect time to tease me. So I quickly put my block up to her, not needing her input right now. She was not funny. He did not like me at all. He was trying hard, likely very hard, to be kind, because Luna Eden had said to make sure I was okay. I should probably be grateful for his offer. But still, it confused me. I highly doubt he wanted to be keeping me company. I think he has been made to give up enough of his time for me over the last few days, as it was thanks to Luna Eden. I didn't want him feeling he had to give up more of his time. You really don't need to, I told him with an uncomfortable smile. Oh, he looks uncomfortable now, almost a little hurt, like a wounded puppy. How do I manage it? I just thought it might be better than both us sitting alone, he suggested, and I found myself sighing. Maybe he was right. What chocolate have you got? I asked, a little curious, because I knew my supply was running low in my room, and I needed to go out for more. He looked at me guiltily. Would you judge me if I said a cupboard full? I giggled. Hell no, I would call you a dream guy. And suddenly Asher was laughing, and it was such a bright and cheerful sound, something so unexpected from him. But it made me smile. He stood up, offering me his hand to pull me up. I don't think I have ever been called that. He smirked. But I will take that as well. Let's go then, he asked with a wink. I guess so. I took his hand, appreciating his help in pulling me up, and we walked in a comfortable silence along the landing to the short corridor leading off it, and he opened the door to what I assume was his beta suite. Inside was modernly decorated in black, gray, and white. Asher clearly took great pride in his home, though part of me wonders just how long he actually spends here. Because every time he talks about things he is always saying how busy he is. We walked into the hallway, with a number of doorways off it, I assumed to bedroom, bathroom, and kitchen. But Asher leads me to the room near the lower end of the hallway. Right? This is a secret. Okay. I am trusting you here, Bailey. I am meant to be a fitness freak. So, if anyone were to know how much chocolate I ate, they would never take my training sessions seriously again. He said to me with a grin. And once again I found myself laughing at him. He was funny without even trying, I think, and his whole face lit up when he was smiling so genuinely. That darkness and moodiness I had seen him was almost all gone. He opened the door to a modernly decorated kitchen, with black units and a marble countertop. He went straight to one of the cupboard doors, opening it for me and motioning for me to take a look. And as I did, I could see a whole selection of different chocolate bars. My idea of a very sinful heaven. Wow. I gasped, and I heard Asher laughing behind me. The way to a girl's heart, I guess, he asked. And I turned to look at him, my eyes wide in shock at all the different variations of chocolate. Wide eyes, likely with hearts coming out of them for all the chocolate that resided in his cupboard. No wonder he was smiling at me. He likely found me highly amusing. Definitely this girl's heart. Not like I had much luck in any other aspect. I joked, and he smiled sadly at me. I am sure you will. But until then, I guess I don't mind sharing my chocolate stash with you. So long as you keep my secret. I found myself giggling without even meaning to, as I looked up at him. Wow, my hero, I added sarcastically, and he simply smiled once more. A smile that seemed to come so much more easily than it had before. Listening to Bailey giggle as she stood in the kitchen of my beta suite made my heart pound harder than I think it had done in a long time. But I tried my hardest to ignore it. She looked up at me through her long dark lashes. Wow, my hero, she said with a sarcastic smile, and despite myself, I smiled right back at her. There is something about her that makes me smile. Something about the way she jokes with me. Her carefree character, her humor and way she teases me with no thought. You want to watch that sarcasm, Missy, or else my offer of sharing my chocolate may be withdrawn, I said with a smirk, and Bailey looked at me open-mouthed, feigning shock, and once again she had me smiling. This girl has had me smiling more since she arrived than I had done in months. Oh, how rude. You know that you can't promise a girl chocolate and then take it back, right? You do that, and I would just have to let the pack know that their big strong beta gains his super strength from chocolate, not working out. Imagine their shock and disappointment in you when your secret is revealed. She wiggled her eyebrows at me as if to challenge me. And once again I found myself laughing. Okay. I think you may have me there. I won't break my promise. I nodded. So, you want a coffee to help that chocolate go down? Coffee? You want me to stop up all night? She asked. Then suddenly Bailey turned to look at me, biting her lip uncomfortably. You want to do me a favor and forget I said that. I held back the chuckle that was so close to leaving my lips. She had obviously heard what she said in the same way I had, but no, that was not my intention. Not in the slightest. I grinned. All forgotten. You seem to think so badly of me, Miss West. I winked at her playfully, and the slight flush to her cheeks made my heart warm, knowing she was embarrassed. I have soda too, if that is better for Sleeping Beauty, I added. So she knew she didn't have to have a coffee. Now she rolled her eyes at me before answering. Soda would be good, thank you. And trust me, I am far from a Sleeping Beauty. You so do not want to see me when I wake up, I chuckled, as she dropped her head to her hands, as if she had realized what she had just said. She was incredibly sweet when she was embarrassed. How am I managing this? She muttered. I did not think of it in any way but the sweet and innocent way you meant it. I reassured her, biting my lip to stop myself from smiling. Though you forget, I have seen you in your pajamas. Her eyes widened as if she remembered. I remember. You have curly hair. I pointed out, slowly reaching out to touch her currently straightened hair that was currently pulled back into a ponytail. Yeah, I hate it. Forever been picked on for it. Wild and crazy hair. Like a mane. When you are constantly criticized for something, you kind of end up hating it. Thankfully, I learned how to tame it. She ran her hand through her ponytail as if to demonstrate. I think the curls suited you for what it was worth, I said with a shrug, and she looked at me in shock. Her cheeks flushed once more. Before, she quickly looked back at the stash of chocolate in the cupboard to avoid my gaze. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that. It just kind of happened. I grabbed a couple of cans of soda from the refrigerator as she picked some chocolate from the cupboard before I led her through to the lounge of my home. My home that I barely spent any time in, modestly decorated in modern colors and furniture. I watched as Bailey's eyes darted around the room, taking in the room before looking awkwardly at me, like she was unsure if she wanted to be here alone with me or not. Sit yourself down, I said, allowing her the chance to pick where she wanted to sit. I was beginning to question if inviting her here was a little on the too friendly side. This was not me, not in the slightest. Bailey nervously sat herself down on the edge of one of the sofas, her big brown eyes looking toward me. Your home is nice, she said politely. I sighed. Thanks. I moved back here after, my voice faltered a little. No, I don't think she needed to know that. I shook my head. Thanks. Bailey smiled at me as I sat down at the opposite end of the sofa. We were almost acting like two nervous teenagers on a date right now. It was ridiculous. I had invited her here so she wasn't sitting on her own for the night overthinking things with the guy she was missing. I was trying to help her. There is nothing between the two of us. She doesn't like me, and I don't like her. There was nothing to be nervous about. When your mate died, she asked quietly. Sorry, you started saying when you moved back here after. So I wondered if it was when your mate died. She looked at her feet, looking a little uncomfortable. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't have asked. I shrugged. Why not? Not like I don't ask you things. I shouldn't. Yeah. When Isla died, I couldn't go back to the home we had just begun to call ours. You guys weren't together long? She asked, her head tilted gently, her face full of compassion as she spoke. I slowly shook my head, sighing. I don't know if I was one of the lucky ones now or not. I thought I was at the time, meeting my fated mate so soon after coming of age. But in doing that, it meant she was here when the pack was attacked. When the rogues came, I closed my eyes, my fists clenched tight in my lap, trying hard to calm my breathing. I can't remember the last time I had spoken about all this. Suddenly, I felt a hand over mine, and as I opened my eyes, I was surprised to find Bailey had edged along the sofa to sit herself closer to me, and her hand was now holding mine softly. I could see Asher struggling. And I feel so bad for even asking now. For even encouraging this sort of talk. This was all my fault. I didn't like seeing him hurting. I know I had said some choice things about him when I had arrived, but I truly hated seeing him struggle like this. He didn't deserve to be in pain. I was sure of that. I slid myself along the sofa, noticing his eyes were closed as he breathed heavily like he was trying to compose himself. Maybe I should leave. Give him some space. He seemed like the sort of guy who needed his space. Yet, instinct had me reaching for his hand instead. The touch seemed to make him jump, as he instantly opened his eyes to look at me in shock. His big green eyes were looking at me with confusion. Sorry, I muttered, going to move my hand, but instead his fingers gripped mine as his eyes fell upon our hands. Maybe I shouldn't have asked, I whispered. No, I understand, he said, exhaling deeply. I don't talk much about it all. It is not easy as you can imagine. I lost Isla soon after we had met, before being able to build a life together. But the bond was already there, forming, and we had just moved into our new home together, both so excited at the thought of what the future would bring for us. I couldn't go back once she had gone. It was always going to be our home, the home we planned our future in. So, I moved back here. I felt the pain within his voice, and I can sense Akira whimpering within my mind at the suffering this man next to us must have gone through. I thought what I had gone through was bad, but this poor guy had lost the one he was destined to be with. The one he had thought would be by his side for the rest of his life. The one he had been waiting for. He must have been heartbroken. There was no worse pain, I would imagine, my own heart clenched in pain for him. In truth, I desperately wanted to throw my arms around him and hug him. But he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would appreciate a hug. The darkness that lingered over him made so much more sense to me now. The pain he must battle daily if this was what he struggled with, must drag him down. Dim any joy within him. Grief can be overpowering. I am sorry you had to go through that. Asher, I said faintly. You have done amazing to continue being such a wonderful beta. Your pack is lucky to have you. He laughed. A dry and almost ironic sort of laugh, causing me to look up at him. I think my Alpha and Luna may beg to differ on that opinion sometimes. He told me with a wry smile. I think I am slowly driving them insane. Hey, with all the favors it sounds like you do for them, I don't think they can complain much, I told him, and he grins. Finally. Someone who sees it from my point of view, I laughed. I am sure they appreciate all you do. You will get your chance to gain all your favors back one day. Seems to me, they definitely owe you some. That would be a whole lot. Caleb may not be quite so agreeable, and don't even get me started on Eden. You think the Alpha runs the show. In truth, it is our little lady Luna. She knows you call her that? I asked him, finding it funny, and I could tell just from the way he spoke of them that they were all quite close. Hell no, nor would I want her to. She would whoop my ass if she knew for a second I called her anything other than her name. Especially right now, pregnancy hormones and Eden do not mix. He grinned at me. I will be sure to tell her then. I teased him, and the way he looked at me feigning shock made me giggle. Now come on, Bailey. Surely you wouldn't want to get me into trouble, would you? I am sharing my chocolate stash with you after all. Doesn't that make us friends now? He questioned. And I found myself looking at him with a feeling of confusion filling my head. Yeah, I guess it does. Wow. That look upon your face tells me the thought of being friends with me is far from a good thing. He said with a shrug. The deep frown. He signals to my face, over-exaggerating a frown upon his own face, making me stick my tongue out at him, aware he was teasing me. I didn't frown, or not intentionally. I explained, don't think I could blame you. Not like I have been the best at making an impression upon you since you arrived. Oh, I didn't realize you were trying to make an impression on me. I teased. His eyes met mine, and the way he looked at me made my stomach churn. Or was that butterflies? Neither did I. He grinned, making me laugh again. Suddenly, my phone began to ring from by my side, causing me to pick it up out of curiosity, wondering who it would be. But I didn't recognize the number, so I thought I had better answer it. What if it was someone at PAC? Hello? I answered, smiling politely at Asher to apologize for the disturbance. But he simply smiled in response as he picked up his soda and leaned back into the sofa. So, thought you'd got away from me, did you? A voice I thought I had got away from hissed down the phone at me, and my hands began to tremble. I may be away from Pack for now, bitch, but I will be back. And when I am, I will make you pay for the shit you have caused, Bailey. Mark my words, difference will be. I will have a new mate by my side, and you will be all alone. Miles's voice snarled at me, as tears filled my eyes, while I saw the eyes of Asher looking at me with a look I wasn't able to read.